Battlefield 6 cheater Riley CS, where I went through and debunked the biggest myths and misconceptions that were being spread. And at the end of the video, I said this. On the flip side, Riley hasn't been banned in-game, which could be used as evidence that she isn't cheating, especially given that according to their anti-cheat team, they have already prevented over 300,000 attempts to cheat already. Well, shortly after I released that video, I started getting flooded with comments saying that Riley had been officially banned. I even got comments saying that Riley had confessed and had been kicked off her team. And indeed, it has been confirmed that Riley CS was banned in-game by EA. And we know that Riley was banned because this video said she was. So, I guess that's that. Case closed. Riley is a confirmed cheater. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next. Well, you know what? I guess while we're here, maybe I should quickly double check that video just to make sure there is some evidence to support that claim, because it is a pretty big claim. I mean, I know that someone would never lie on the internet, so it's obviously going to be a huge waste of time, but these days one of my character flaws is that I tend not to believe what people say unless they prove it. I learned my lesson the hard way. Given the title of the video, I expect there to be something like a screenshot or a video showing that Riley's account was banned. And the evidence must be pretty good because other larger creators were spreading it as if it were gospel. So let's see what Call of Shame's evidence is.
As you all know, the video caused a massive uproar because it clearly proved he was using cheats. When the beta ended, the clip spread everywhere, and EA was absolutely aware of it. Normally, EA shares highlight clips from the community on their social channels, but they stayed silent on this one. Why? Because they know something was off. It would be a PR disaster if they outright banned him, and it would be worse if they defended the cheater like Call of Duty often stupidly do. It's a lose-lose scenario for them, and I understand that. But getting back to the alleged ban, look at what happened when Riley tried to play the beta in the second week after the video went viral. Every time he got into a match, he was kicked out within seconds.
Did my game just fucking crash? My game just crashed. Nice. Guys, what is wrong with Battlefield 6?
He tried to boot it up again and was kicked for the second time.
Close my fucking game.
Wait, should we leave?
The cheater now tried to repair the game files as he desperately attempts to log into the account that has been soft banned.
We need to ramp up the moderation.
He made it into a match, and yet again, the account was flagged and the game crashed.
I was getting a shout out from two big YouTubers, I guess. Dude, the door... My game...
He tries again, and for the fourth time in a row, his account was blocked from playing Battlefield 6.
Terrible news, my game crashed again.
What the fuck?
This happened repeatedly, to the point where he had to log out and switch to an alternate account. On that account, he was able to play normally. The cheater was banned by Javelin Anti-Cheat, just not in a way that creates headlines.
Okay, so let me get this straight. EA thought Riley was cheating and wanted to ban her, but they were afraid to do it in a way that was obvious. So they rigged her account to crash shortly after getting into game.
You mean his
forcing
account?
her
That
to switch to
clearly is a
different
guy's
account.
voice. Come on
I
now.
have to admit on its face,
Mental illness
this
and
sounds
something.
really stupid. Call of Shame is just making insane conspiratorial claims with no evidence at all. There was no evidence presented that she was banned, and Call of Shame has no idea what EA is thinking or doing. He doesn't have a statement from them, and they haven't said anything publicly. He is just making things up. And this is just a surface-level glance. We haven't even investigated whether or not these claims are true. And spoiler alert, aside from saying that Riley's game was crashing, everything else Call of Shame said was a complete lie. Riley wasn't banned, and she wasn't using a different account. These are Riley's stats for the first weekend of the beta, and the account name is TTV Riley CS. And these are the stats for the exact same account for the second beta. So clearly the account wasn't banned. But Call of Shame said she was using a different account, and his proof was that the in-game name had changed.
During the first week of the beta, he was rage hacking on the account TTV Riley CS. As a result, that account was not allowed to participate in the second week. He was forced to switch over to his alternate account where he had no issues playing for the entire length of the beta. As soon as he changed accounts, the problem magically fixed itself. So yeah, it does appear that that TTV account seems to have been soft banned for sure.
Well, the name changed because Riley stopped launching the game through the EA launcher and switched to the Steam launcher. When you launch Battlefield 6 through the EA launcher, your in-game name will reflect your EA account name, which in this case was TTV Riley CS. However, if you launch the game through Steam, it will reflect your Steam name, which in this case is just Riley CS. 2 seconds of research would give you this information. It was actually a pretty big problem. Many people were complaining that EA were giving them warnings because of their Steam name, and some people even had their EA account suspended because EA didn't like their Steam name. All that happened here is that Riley's game was crashing through the EA launcher, which was a common problem. So she switched to the Steam launcher, and it worked. That is why the name changed.
At this point, just use Steam. I'm in borderless
Steam
window.
doesn't have the overlay issue, by the way.
That makes sense. Yeah, that might be the method then.
Yeah, I was curious if because of the overlay problem, if Steam just had like perma worse performance than the EA app version, and it's actually the opposite. It just never has that issue.
Okay, well, we're gonna get a game installing stream, part 2.
Just know that when you launch the game via Steam, it shows your Steam name.
That's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't let you back out sometimes.
Did you do any config pause for your FPS? I did during the first beta, but then I had to reinstall my game today to go from EA to Steam, because the EA one just kept crashing, and I haven't done the config since then.
And if you search for Riley's Steam name, the one that shows in the game, EA will say that account doesn't exist. All of the stats for the second weekend show under the EA account name TTV Riley CS, the exact same account that showed her stats for the first weekend. And you can see here in footage of Riley's EA account that the Steam name account matches the name that showed in-game. There are multiple levels of deception in Call of Shame's claim. He lied about Riley being banned. He lied about her using multiple accounts, and then based on those lies came up with an insane tinfoil hat conspiracy theory about EA being too scared to ban her, and therefore they devised some bizarre plan of making her game crash at random times because they were afraid of making headlines. And people actually took this guy seriously. And by people, I don't just mean random morons on the internet. I mean huge reaction streamers like Tectone and Asmongold, who watched several of his videos. And Tectone and Asmongold are basically like baby birds with their mouths open, just eagerly gulping down whatever half-digested garbage Call of Shame decided to regurgitate up for them. They both question nothing and believe everything is fact without any hesitation. And their explicit acceptance of Call of Shame's videos then spreads to their audience, who blindly believe them also. In this case, the stakes couldn't be lower. We are just discussing whether or not some random person on the internet is cheating in a video game. However, I care less about the content and more about the implication that so many people are willing to believe whatever they are told without evidence. And then they will go even further and attack me and claim that I am a mindless defender because I don't do the same. I am less a defender of Riley as I am a defender of logic and not jumping to conclusions. I have never once said that Riley didn't cheat, and I even said that a reasonable person would look at her footage and assume it's cheated. It's just that I'm not personally convinced. But many people were angered by this. And in fact, things are getting a bit too insidious for my liking. Listen to this.
When Carl Jost put out a video attempting to defend Riley CS, I was honestly confused because he has some actually pretty amazing videos, and then I quickly realized why he did it. If you're going to make an impartial video, you should never let a blatant cheater dictate how you tell your story.
I made many points in my video, and Call of Shame addressed none of them. Instead, he just asserted that I was defending Riley because I talked to her. Or rather, he asserts the mere fact that I allowed her to speak with me means that I'm biased and everything can be discarded. Let me be clear, this is an evil philosophy, but watch how it spreads. Tectone reacted to Call of Shame's video, and look at how he responded.
When Carl Jost put out a video attempting to defend Riley CS,
Oh, this guy went in on me. Yep, trying to farm some really big internet updates. Yep. Oh, he said Tectone bad in 2025. Plus 1,000 karma. Good lord, man. The moment a video starts out with Asmon and Tectone bad, I'm like, I'm good. And you know what's crazy? He said both of those things in this video. Yep, why wouldn't he?
Now first, Tectone is a blatant liar. I never said he was bad. I made no personal attacks in the video whatsoever to a single person. In fact, I never even said his or Asmongold's name. All I did was show 2 clips of Tectone and disagreed with his logic about whether or not you could tell if Riley could track someone through a rock. I made no comments directed at him or about him at all. So imagine that. All I do is disagree about whether or not you could tell if Riley was tracking someone through a rock, and in response, Tectone lies to his audience. He tells them that I said he and Asmongold were bad, and that I went in on him hard. He lies and does this to get his audience to hate me, simply because we disagreed on some point that, in the grand scheme of things, is meaningless. Which makes it especially ironic when he leaves YouTube and blames other people for being toxic. But it gets even worse. Tectone agrees with Call of Shame that I shouldn't have let Riley speak with me.
Yep.
And then I quickly realized why he did it. If you're going to make an impartial video, you should never let a blatant cheater dictate how you tell your story.
Yep. Yep.
This was shocking to me, given that Tectone has an American flag hanging on his wall. He even wants an American flag tattoo.
Getting more tattoos. So probably getting a collarbone tattoo and getting all this arm sleeved up. Getting the American flag pretty soon with a little bit more than the American flag, but I'm very excited about that.
I believe it is immoral to not allow the accused person to defend themselves, and that's also why it's in the Constitution. Of course, this isn't a real trial, but this is the court of public opinion, and the philosophy should still apply. But Tectone seems to disagree. Tectone pretends to believe in American values, but when he wants to attack someone, giving them any rights is seen as a bad thing. And if his principles crumble to dust this quickly and easily over something as significant as this, just imagine what would happen over something more serious. Asmongold also just blindly agrees with Call of Shame and doesn't bat an eyelid when he claims that me talking to Riley made me unreliable.
I was honestly confused because he has some actually pretty amazing videos.
He does.
And then I quickly realized why he did it. If you're going to make an impartial video, you should never let a blatant cheater dictate how you tell your story.
I would be happy to talk and share my side of everything. Oh, so he just talked to him. Well, I guess, big surprise.
Now, I think if you sat down with Tectone or Asmongold and had a respectful conversation about due process and why it's important, they would actually agree that an accused person should be allowed to defend themselves. But clearly, they have allowed this situation to not only turn them into a pathetic liar, as is the case with Tectone, but to completely oppose something as inarguably necessary for a healthy society as communication and due process. As it stands, these people do not want a proper investigation. They already have their conclusion, and they are only interested in hearing evidence that conforms to their existing beliefs. The mere possibility of Riley providing any counter-evidence to me is triggering to them. And in my opinion, just this one point alone, the fact that they don't want me talking to Riley at all, is enough to prove that they do not care about the truth whatsoever, and simply have an agenda. Now, with that out of the way, let's expose more of Call of Shame's lies. Legend, back in the day when I was maturing into a dashing young man, there were 2 fundamental truths in life. The first was that every nerd wanted to be an elite programmer, and the second was that learning to program was boring as hell, which is why I personally failed programming in university and dropped out. But with today's sponsor Boot.dev, learning to code is nothing like it used to be. Boot.dev makes learning to program fun. It integrates earning XP, gaining levels, and completing quests to make it feel as much like a game as it can. You can learn a bunch of languages like Python, SQL, and Go, plus many more. And courses are structured really logically to make your progress as smooth as possible. But what I personally think is most amazing about Boot.dev is Boots. Boots is a personal AI tutor, and Boots is incredible. It's trained not to give you the answers outright, but to rather help you solve problems yourself, which is a much more effective way to learn. And I can go from having no idea what's going on to fully understanding how to solve a problem in just a couple of prompts. So if you're looking for a well-paying job and want a career in back-end development, or maybe you just want to learn to program for fun, boot.dev is the bee's knees. Just click my link in the description or scan my QR code and use code CARLJOBS to get 25% off your entire first year on an annual plan. And of course, there is a 30-day no questions asked money-back guarantee, so there really is no reason not to try it out. First, we need to address the elephant in the room. Call of Shame is an AI channel. We need to go no further than the fact that it's voiced by an AI. It's not even a real person. So it's pretty funny that anyone, let alone large content creators, would watch any of these videos and take them seriously. But I suppose my standards must be too high. Historically, Riley has been banned twice on Twitch. Once recently after her montage went super viral on Twitter, and once back in October of 2024. Let's listen to what Call of Shame has to say about Riley's ban last year.
Catgirl was actually banned for 7 days on Twitch back in 2024. Now back then, Twitch were extremely lenient for cheating. So if you got a 7-day ban for cheating, you were absolutely 100% cheating. There is no debate. This was a 7-day ban for cheating in a multiplayer game. And people are still defending him. Wake up, you bunch of morons.
He asserts that if you're banned by Twitch, that you are 100% cheating. According to Call of Shame, there has never been an instance where someone was incorrectly banned. And I guess that's why Twitch doesn't even give streamers the chance to appeal their bans. Because if they are banned in the first place, there is a 100% chance they are cheating. Well, except for that little tiny detail that Twitch does actually allow streamers to appeal their bans, because mistakes do happen. And funnily enough, after Riley was banned in October of 2024, she appealed, and her appeal was accepted. Her original ban was on October 18th. After appealing, Riley received an email on October 22nd saying that the ban was due to a mistake, with Twitch saying, "A member of our team has reviewed your appeal and determined that your account was suspended or blocked due to a mistake on our part." But I don't get it. This can't be true. Call of Shame said Twitch never makes mistakes. Twitch is basically God. Call of Shame also lied and said that the appeal of this ban was denied, and Riley served the full suspension.
As everyone knows, back in 2024, he was banned on Twitch for 7 days for cheating. He appealed the ban, but the appeal was denied.
Again, this is just a lie plucked out of thin air. It really needs to be stressed again that this is an AI slop channel producing a video every single day. It's impossible to do proper investigations and make videos this quickly at the same time. The only way slop channels can produce content so quickly is by doing no research, making things up, and hastily pasting together videos with enough padding as they can muster. And their audience is entirely made up of gullible people who don't understand how this slop machine works. In the case of the most recent ban, Call of Shame made a video titled "Leaked Twitch Document Confirms Catgirl Cheated," and he shows an email from Twitch saying the appeal was denied.
Newly obtained evidence indicates he was banned for cheating, served the full length of the ban, and had his appeal denied after a manual review of his gameplay and submission. They lied to you. All of them. They said he appealed, and that Twitch reviewed his gameplay and lifted the ban. But that's nonsense. His appeal was denied, both times. And in both cases, Riley had to serve the entire length of his ban for cheating in multiplayer games.
Notice how he claims that people said Riley appealed and Twitch reviewed the gameplay and lifted the ban, though doesn't produce a single piece of evidence to support this claim whatsoever, or any examples. And I couldn't find anyone saying this claim myself. But more importantly, look at this email. Notice anything strange. Riley's name is misspelled, and the formatting doesn't match a Twitch email at all. The formatting is completely scrambled, and there are no hyperlinks. This email is completely fake. What's interesting though is that Riley did actually appeal this recent ban, and it was denied. Here is the real email from Twitch. And what's incredible is that the real email wasn't even leaked. The YouTuber Enders made a video on October 12th, where he shows the real email and says that the appeal was denied.
Riley got the Twitch channel that they stream on mass reported and falsely banned, when I emphasize falsely banned, because of this clip, right? And here's the appeal, here's the initial ban that Riley sent me. The appeal was denied, right? And Riley's Twitch account was, I think, suspended for 24 hours. As of recording this video, Riley is unbanned, so they will be back to streaming.
Then Call of Shame, 2.5 weeks later, on the 29th of August, makes a video titled Leaked Twitch Document, where, as echoed in the description of the video, he proclaims that he is revealing leaked screenshots proving that the appeal was denied, and also claiming that Riley defenders were lying and saying the opposite, and while doing so, showing a fake email. It's all incredibly bizarre to me. But again, this is what happens when AI is used so heavily to make a video. After getting called out for using a fabricated email, Call of Shame scrambled to find an excuse, and this is what he came up with.
In a recent video, I showed a document confirming that Riley CS was banned for cheating in multiplayer games. It also shows that he appealed, and the appeal was denied, meaning a manual review was conducted, and the reviewers were not satisfied with his gameplay. This is huge, as it completely refutes the arguments of mass reports, as it was a manual review. To make the screenshot easier to read, I ran it through a digital enhancer. In the process, the tool removed the mouse pointer and accidentally clipped the final S in the username, so Riley CS appears as Riley C. That's the only change. The screenshot isn't fake or manipulated to mislead. The enhancer simply misread the pointer and trimmed a letter.
This is obviously bullshit. This email is not an enhanced version, as in AI was not used to upscale it or make it better quality. It's completely different. The formatting is changed. The name is different. There are no hyperlinks. It's not enhanced, it's manufactured. Then Call of Shame says that the email isn't fake and that it wasn't fabricated because Enders had shown a similar email previously.
For those who still doubt it, even Enders, the super simp, has shown the same documents confirming that Riley was banned for cheating in multiplayer games, ironically while trying to argue he wasn't. And no, I'm not joking.
Riley got the Twitch channel that they stream on mass reported and falsely banned, when I emphasize falsely banned, because of this clip, right? And here's the appeal, here's the initial ban that Riley sent me. The appeal was denied, right? And Riley's Twitch account was, I think, suspended for 24 hours.
So there you have it.
Though it seems pretty obvious to me that Call of Shame didn't know that Enders had shown this email 2.5 weeks earlier. Otherwise, why would he title his video Leaked Twitch Document and claim that he was the one revealing it? And why would he post on his YouTube a picture of this screenshot a day before his video saying the plot thickens, as if this was some kind of new revelation? Well, the real reason is because just a day before Call of Shame's video, a post on Reddit got a lot of traction that showed a screenshot of the email taken from Ender's video, claiming that it was a leak. So naturally, the AI slop channel that doesn't do any actual research immediately made a video claiming there was a leak. And then because AI is used so much by this channel, instead of just using the actual email itself, it made a brand new one, mistakes and all. There are many things to unpack from this, but the best case scenario is that the Call of Shame channel will fabricate and manipulate evidence instead of using the real thing. And because it's so low effort, they can't even be bothered to notice the name is misspelled and the formatting has been destroyed. Again, this is not AI enhancement, this is using AI to make a brand new email. And if the channel is willing to create an entirely new email and tamper with evidence, what other evidence is it manipulating and creating? Well, as it turns out, a ton. Call of Shame does this all the time. For example, when talking about external crosshairs, he calls them a cheat and says that the creator of the external crosshair that Riley uses says not to use it because it's cheating, and displays this quote on screen.
EA's website clearly states this is not allowed. Even the site that offers this overlay tells you do not use it in Battlefield titles. The anti-cheat will ban you for it. And why? Because it's cheating. So when anyone tells you it's not cheating, they are flat out lying.
However, if you go to the HUD site website and look at where this quote is pulled from, the context is completely different. The actual quote begins with, "HUD site is not a cheat. It doesn't change game files or gameplay." So of course, knowing that he can't show you the real website, Call of Shame creates this fancy looking partial quote from scratch. He then proceeds to provide an apparent quote directly from EA.
Even Battlefield themselves state, "Do not use any third-party programs and external overlays, because they will get you banned." The amount of bots trying to justify this is hilarious. It comes down to a skill issue. If you're not good enough, just say so.
However, this quote doesn't seem to exist anywhere, or at least I couldn't find it. Nor could I find any comment from EA regarding external overlays. This quote appears to be completely made up. Call of Shame also quickly flashes EA's terms of service, claiming that it clearly states crosshair overlays aren't allowed.
EA's website clearly states this is not allowed.
However, when you read them, there is no mention of overlays whatsoever. I guess you can try to argue that an external overlay is a modification of the game's interface. However, you could just as easily argue that it's not a modification of the game interface itself, but rather a modification to your physical hardware. In this case, the monitor. In practice, it would be the same as physically drawing a crosshair on your monitor or placing a physical object onto your screen. Something that speedrunners have been doing for decades. But more importantly than anything, these rules are prefaced with two words. EA believes. Not what you believe, but what EA believes. And the only way to know what EA believes in regards to external crosshairs in Battlefield 6 is for EA to make a statement on them, which they have not yet done. Now, going back to Riley's most recent Twitch suspension, when Twitch suspends your channel, it tells you which VOD was the culprit. And in Riley's case, the stream she was banned over was titled "Poor Cam to Prove I'm Not Cheating." And those of you who are particularly astute will see why this is of note. The original clip montage that made everyone say Riley is cheating didn't have a hand cam. So Riley wasn't banned because of the montage that people are claiming was cheated. It was actually the stream after. And you might say that perhaps the latest stream with handcam was also cheated, and that might be true. But there is an expert that disagrees. There is a very trusted figure who has conducted thorough investigations on Riley's play that says her gameplay with the handcam is not cheating.
This cat girl person put out a new clip trying to prove he doesn't cheat. But let's be honest, this is just normal gameplay. All I see is someone standing still and spraying with a light machine gun. Everybody does that, it's nothing special. Where are the snaps? Where's the aimbot? It's a desperate attempt to convince people he's doing the same thing, but it's not even close. What he showed here is very, very different.
Hilariously, because Call of Shame doesn't do any actual investigation and therefore doesn't have access to important information, he will say things that are completely self-defeating and not even realize it. The reality is that Twitch didn't ban Riley for that famous montage or the stream that produced it. No one really knows why Riley was banned either. In his video, Enders claimed that Riley was banned due to mass reporting.
Riley got the Twitch channel that they stream on mass reported and falsely banned. When I emphasize falsely banned.
However, when I asked Enders what his evidence for this was, he said he didn't have any and it was just an assumption. It should go without saying that you shouldn't make claims like this so confidently without proper proof, even if your logic seems to be sound. And just for transparency, Enders did give me permission to show his DMs. Now, it could be possible that Riley was banned due to mass reporting, and personally I would be inclined to assume that was the case, but we really don't know. What we do know is that Twitch only has access to the same information everyone else does. Twitch is only provided the visuals of Riley's gameplay. Riley doesn't play the game through Twitch like she does through her EA account. Twitch doesn't have secret knowledge about the software Riley is using, and if Twitch bans or doesn't ban someone, that isn't proof of anything. What we do know is that after Riley appealed, it was viewed by someone at Twitch who rejected it. But the appeal and the denial all happened within 24 hours of the ban. I'm not going to put any stock on a random Twitch employee who clearly hasn't done a thorough investigation. The stream in question was over 6 hours long. And remember, it was the hand cam stream done later on, not the stream from the montage that got all of the attention. So the montage had nothing to do with it. I struggle to believe anyone did an investigation of a 6-hour stream all within that 24-hour period. The notion is ridiculous. And it's hilarious for Call of Shame to assert that Twitch is some kind of authority on cheating. So just to recap on what we've covered so far. Call of Shame lied about Riley being banned by EA. He lied about Riley using multiple accounts. He lied about Riley's appeal being denied last year. And his use of AI is so egregious and lazy that it literally creates entirely new documents with obvious spelling mistakes that he fails to notice. These are the big lies that make him completely unreliable. But as we will soon see, he basically lies about everything. Here, Call of Shame shows the Steam group from Team EXE and says they all have game bans attached to their account.
They have a whole bunch of cheaters actively in this so-called org, if you can call it that. I mean, come on. They all have game bans assigned to their accounts. It's just laughable at this point. The same org that Enders and Riley are in are all cheating. I'm not making this up, people. You can check it yourself. It's insane.
Call of Shame says to check it out yourself, so I did. The group has a total of 93 members. You would think, given what Call of Shame said, that most of these accounts would have bans, if not all of them, as he literally said. But of those 93 members, only 5 of them have bans associated with their Steam accounts. 3 of them are for bans that were 6, 7, and 10 years ago respectively, and the other 2 are 1 year and 2 years ago. So 5 out of 93 members have a ban of some kind, with 3 of those being over 6 years ago. And Call of Shame says all of the players have bans.
They have a whole bunch of cheaters actively in this so-called org, if you can call it that. I mean, come on. They all have game bans assigned to their accounts. It's just laughable at this point.
Again, this isn't a defense of Team EXE. It is only to show that Call of Shame says things that are false and uses extreme hyperbole to make points. And really, saying he uses extreme hyperbole is basically me being nice. It's essentially just lying. Call of Shame's use of logic is astoundingly poor, which is evidenced by the way he talks about Shimmy. Shimmy was the Team EXE member that was kicked off the team for using an aimbot in Battlefield and Call of Duty. And then it was uncovered that he was also cheating in Kovacs as well. I made a whole video about this a few months ago, but listen to how Call of Shame describes this situation.
Team EXE, or XE, whatever you want to call them, I don't really care. They had to make a public statement and admit he was using soft aim. And because the situation was so public, they really had no other option.
Forgive my French, but this is truly fucking stupid. He says that Team EXE removed Shimmy because the situation was so public that they had no choice.
And because the situation was so public, they really had no other option.
That is an amazing claim. When Shimmy was banned, no one outside of a tiny community knew who he was. Shimmy's montages, the ones he cheated in, have a grand total of 6,000 views. And that's months after I and other people heavily covered this story. Shimmy was an absolute nobody when he was kicked. Riley's montage that blew up, which is apparently obvious cheating as well, has almost 100 million impressions. So according to Call of Shame, Shimmy's cheating, with his montages that had just a few hundred views at the time, was so public that Team EXE had no choice but to kick him, but Riley's 100 million view montage that caused major public outcry was not. This makes no sense to anyone with an IQ higher than a loaf of bread. What really needs to be made clear is that it was the AIM community itself that exposed Shimmy, not people from outside it. It is insanely disingenuous to say that the AIM community was fooled when it was the AIM community itself that exposed Shimmy and kicked him out within a month of him using an aimbot. I suppose this really was a no-win situation. Team EXE uncovering and kicking a cheater is used as proof that the team has cheaters in it and that they protect them. It's not used as evidence that they can identify and kick cheaters. The very thing that they did is used as evidence for the complete opposite. The AI slop truly shines in this segment talking about Shimmy.
This is Shimmy's own gameplay recorded on Aim Trainer. Looks pretty solid, right? Well, now we know he was actually using an aimbot. So anyone claiming that great aim from Aim Trainer alone proves legitimacy can throw that argument out the window. I've just proven it false.
Notice the weird grammar, and it doesn't even know what Kovacs is called. It just calls it Aim Trainer. Personally, I never said that being good at aiming means you aren't cheating. I've seen other people say that, but anyone who has watched my channel would know I would never make that claim myself. World-class players cheat all the time. Being very skilled at a game doesn't make you immune to cheating. In my video, I talked about the aim community and said they have better aim than professional esports players. This was not to defend Riley and say that she isn't cheating. It was simply to dispel this misconception that esports pros have the best aim, which is demonstrably false. This misconception was being used as evidence for cheating.
But I don't. When you have
thing
people
about that
that
is-
are perceptually very
Like, pro players have better situational awareness. It's not just like aim. Like, aim isn't everything, like that guy says.
very, very good players, but they're not entering competitions and they're not winning competitions, I generally assume that they're probably cheaters.
So while other people may have used this poor argument that because someone used an aim trainer they wouldn't cheat, I never would. I would only seek to combat misinformation and make sure that if people are going to claim someone is cheating, it should be for the right reasons. Call of Shame also puts Riley's and Shimmy's gameplay side by side and claims they are identical, which is provably false.
The gameplay is identical. The same snap behavior is there, but let's be clear, the snap itself is not the cheat. The soft aimbot is the mechanical auto-correction that takes over as the crosshair nears the target. The so-called pro players and Riley defenders from that strange little list they created just don't recognize what soft aim really looks like, so they gaslight the clips by overanalyzing and debunking the snaps. But the snaps were never the issue. What matters is the underlying soft aim correction, and here, the gameplay is a dead match. It's exactly the same. This is a closed case. There's nothing more to be said.
Shimmy was banned precisely because his aimbot locked onto the same part of the enemy every single time. But if you actually spent any effort looking at Riley's clips, this is not the case at all. Call of Shame's inability to use logic manifests in funny ways, with the channel arguing with itself video to video. Originally, the channel claimed that Riley's snap to the rock was all that it needed to see to know that she was cheating.
So yeah, I think we can pretty much all agree that he is absolutely cheating. I mean, there's no debate. Let's just call it what it is. The moment he moved towards the guy behind the rock was pretty much enough for me to stop watching this clown. He's done.
And it claimed that Riley's snapping to enemies was an obvious aimbot.
Check this out. This is a snap, no debate. I can't say for sure yet if this is an aimbot or some other third-party software until I finish my data models and start examining this with TrueSight. I mean, what are we even talking about here?
But then for some reason it changed its tune and said that the snapping wasn't evidence for cheating at all.
The aimbot didn't get a lock. Let me explain why this happened. The aimbot only works if the enemy is inside its field of view. Now, because the enemy was outside the FOV, it didn't lock on, even though he is firing his weapon. The snapping isn't the cheat. The aimbot only takes over once the weapon fires.
It originally claimed that this clip was not cheating and was inserted into the montage to fool people.
When you slow it down, you can see that this person is actually snapping past the targets and correcting their own bad aim. They're snapping to nothing. And no, that's not cheating. Cheaters often include clips like this in their montages so that absolute morons can try to break it down and say, see, he's not cheating.
Then later it claimed that it was cheating.
Now that you've seen what soft aim looks like, let's compare Riley CS side by side with Shimmy. But I'm going to use the actual gameplay that got him banned. The gameplay is identical. The same snap behavior is there, but let's be clear, the snap itself is not the cheat. The soft aimbot is the mechanical auto-correction that takes over as the crosshair nears the target. Look, it's clear this is cheating. I've not only proven it, I've provided the receipts. The defenders are losing, and they know it.
Remember, Call of Shame doesn't do any research or any investigations. The AI makes a video every single day. Of course, it must be prompted by a human, but that human isn't doing any real work. And whoever is prompting the AI clearly doesn't care about logical consistency or accuracy. Call of Shame can't even go 30 seconds without saying something stupidly conflicting. Listen to this amazing segment.
I'm also hearing now that he was banned in Titanfall some years ago for using aimbot. Look, multiple channels have presented concrete proof that he is. So the question is, are you going to side with hearsay or the facts staring you right in the face? I'm also hearing now that he was banned in Titanfall some years ago for using aimbot. Are you going to side with hearsay or the facts staring you right in the face?
This is truly beautiful. You know what's really funny? Back when I made my original Riley video, I said this. The channel Call of Shame, who seems to be very knowledgeable on aimbots, and to be honest, a lot more knowledgeable than most people I see talking on this matter, claims that the snap to the rock was not cheating at all. And many people took this seriously. And I must admit, this is my deadpan Australian sarcasm failing to land once again. This was a joke. Call of Shame isn't a real person, it's mostly AI, and he is not knowledgeable on anything. But Carl, you might say. He has a white paper. He has a PhD thesis. I mean, this sounds really impressive. Just look at how Asmongold reacts to this incredible proof of expertise.
I've written an entire PhD level white paper on computer vision based cheats, and the...
Oh. No. Oh no. Oh Jesus, here we go, guys.
Urgent need for anti-cheats to step up against AI-driven exploits.
Wow.
In it, I go in depth on soft aim technology and the broader dangers that modern AI
Bro,
pose.
this guy's actually like. So you've got a PhD versus versus some retard? Oh no.
Except when you actually read the paper, it's just more AI trash. Let's forget about the fact that when you put the paper into an AI text detector, it says almost the entire thing is AI generated. The content itself is just self-serving garbage that is just a marketing ploy for this alleged True Guardian site Anti-Cheat, software that you can't download or test for yourself. But just trust me, bro, it's a real thing that really works. This PhD thesis has amazing references, like a Reddit post and YouTube videos. And wow, it even references the exact same website twice, which means this source must be especially important. So what exactly is anybrain.gg? Oh, it's a sales page for another AI anti-cheat software, the exact same type of software that Call of Shame has proclaimed to have developed. Well, if this doesn't scream legit to you, honestly, nothing will. This is as airtight and trustworthy as you can possibly get. It even shows a graph that proves it outperforms all of the other anti-cheat software with no paper or study to substantiate this claim whatsoever. Nor do the references the paper provides point to the data shown in the graph. And the title of the graph is misspelled. In fact, none of the claims in this paper are sourced at all. There is zero sourcing or any citations in this entire paper. Just a bunch of assertions with a list of random references at the end. But given that none of the claims are cited, it's impossible to tell where they came from. But surely it has to be legit. I mean, when he talks about his white paper in his videos, listen to the music.
In fact, I've written a full white paper on computer vision cheats, the dangers they pose and how anti-cheat systems can effectively stop them. It's available on my website, and I've also submitted it as part of my PhD research for peer review.
With music like that, how could you doubt anything this channel says? And to look at these diagrams, you can see that human aim is wavy and cheats is a straight line. If that isn't proof of something, then I don't know what is.
Over the past 6 months, I've been investigating, researching, and reverse engineering external cheat devices to determine the most effective ways to combat them in first-person shooters.
Yeah?
The result is a groundbreaking anti-cheat...
Look at all the sources and everything. Oh my god.
Oh my god, the sources, they are incredible. Maybe if I'm lucky, my YouTube video can appear as a source in a PhD thesis as well. According to a consensus of multiple advanced AIs, this white paper is around 70 to 90% AI generated. And there are quite a few things in here that are obviously just completely fabricated. For example, it shows a table of estimated minimum monthly revenue for various websites. There is no citation or sources listed, of course, but even checking through the references given at the bottom of the document, none of them give any information about the revenue of any of these sites. And the telltale sign of AI making this table up is the fact that it gives values to the cent. Apparently, the estimated monthly revenue of Battlelog is $99,152.79. Humans don't do this. Estimates are usually in a range or rounded to the nearest thousand, not given in exact cents. And according to AI, the pseudocode in this paper is tutorial level and inconsistent with the sophistication claimed. The issue of this white paper being AI generated has already been brought up before in a video by Boren.
My guess is he fed a lot of this to the AI to help him spit out this paper. And while unreliable, I ran large sections of this text through AI text detectors online, and basically all of them said that large portions of the text are 100% AI generated.
And Call of Shame has even responded to this very point.
So this guy thinks AI wrote my white paper, created all my images, and guessed at the algorithms I use in my script, right? That's what he's claiming, that my paper is AI generated. Well, I just turned to scripture, because the Lord has used it to stop evil, and it was written over 2,000 years ago. I randomly chose the book of Leviticus to see if that was AI generated, and all it took was a single book of the Bible to shut this clown down. Amen. Moving on.
Apparently, if you put the Book of Leviticus into an AI detector, it says it's AI generated, which I have to say is pretty incredible. Naturally, me being the stickler I am for double checking things myself, I tried to replicate this, and I put the Book of Leviticus into an AI detector, and my results came back as 0%. So I'm really confused as to what happened. Actually, come to think about it, Call of Shame showed the text on his screen so briefly, I didn't really even get a chance to see what he put in there. Oh, this isn't the Book of Leviticus at all. It's a summary. Call of Shame posted an AI summary of the Book of Leviticus into an AI text detector and said that it was the actual Book of Leviticus. Now I am really intrigued. Does Call of Shame not know what the Book of Leviticus is, or did he intentionally paste an AI summary into the detector and to lie about what it was, even though we can just pause the video and read it for ourselves? There is a very good case to be made that Call of Shame isn't even a native English speaker. On his now deleted Twitter account, it's quite obvious that his grammar is not from someone born in the West. And his old website callofshame.net is even worse. Look at some of these sentences from the terms of service. The donations is a generous effort on your part to give freely to a cause, thus being Call of Shame. We will place your name on our website and your comment should this be approved by our team, but in no way part of the donation agreement. And this work of art of a paragraph somehow managed to find its way onto Call of Shame's anti-cheat website. Guardian will soon be providing complete protection for tournament organisers, helping them to make an informed description whether or not to issue the payout. It's pretty obvious Call of Shame is not an English speaker, which is almost certainly why he doesn't use his own voice in videos. If you go and check pinned comments on Call of Shame's oldest videos, the English is atrocious. As we are fair, we always give the player a chance have their say. We welcome a responsive video. Should we find the claims credible, we will make a note here. The response video will be shared regardless to give a complete fair balance. Wait a minute. Here, Call of Shame claims he is always fair and gives players a chance to have their say, but he has been giving me shit for talking to Riley. What a hypocrite. And with all of this knowledge in mind, there really is a non-zero chance that Call of Shame didn't know that this wasn't the actual Book of Leviticus. And I love the fact that the author of Call of Shame's paper is just Guardian Labs. It's not even a person, and no one is credited or listed anywhere. But again, just have the faith that this is a real person, guys. Don't let the AI voice, the AI generated text, and AI generated labels, graphs, and diagrams fool you. Seriously, the fact that someone as big as Asmongold can watch AI generated videos and believe them immediately without question is insane. And I'm going to preemptively say that I'm not personally attacking
Asmongold isn't the
Asmongold.
super
And
smartest
previously
dude,
I would have
though.
never felt the need to say this. I'm only saying this now because Tectone was such a giant bitch that he took my disagreement over The Rock as a personal insult. And on Reddit, people were claiming that I was trying to make Asmongold look stupid. I am not trying to say that Asmongold or Tectone are bad or stupid because they believe this AI slop. But the fact that they did is pretty alarming. I don't have a personal agenda against these people, but they happen to be the biggest people spreading misinformation on this subject. So I have to mention them, I have to show their clips, and I have to explain why they are wrong. Don't take it personally. I find it unbelievable that we can't have a disagreement on whether or not someone is cheating without someone like Tectone equating that to me calling him a bad person. That is ridiculous. In the past, Asmongold has been very receptive and appreciative when I've changed his mind on something.
Let me link you guys the video. Like, I'm gonna be honest, Carl did the research that, I'll be real, I should have done. I should have known what he knew. I should have looked into it more. I didn't. He did. Give his video a like. He was right. Yeah, people are right. Yeah, I did not know. And like, he knows way more about this than I do.
If anything, this is more a demonstration of the pitfalls of reaction content. Treating everything you watch as truth without any skepticism can be incredibly dangerous. And again, we're talking about something as meaningless as someone cheating in a video game. But the reason I find this so concerning is because I know this isn't just isolated to this one topic. This complete lack of skepticism appears everywhere. Now legends, on a completely unrelated note, I have just published a PhD level peer-reviewed white paper on my own AI-driven visual detection anti-cheat software called True Calcite. True Calcite is a biomechanically anchored visual AI platform that verifies whether on-screen behavior is within human neuromuscular limits. By modeling reaction latency, angular velocity, fatigue effects, and microcorrection variance, True Calcite identifies external HDMI plus AI cheats, spoofed HID inputs, and subtle assistive aimbots that evade process-based systems. Now you might think that True Calcite and True Guardian Sight are similar, but there are subtle differences. As we can see here, True Guardian Sight is a hybrid telemetry partial visual AI that boasts 92.3% accuracy, 2.5% false positives, and 85 millisecond latency, while True Calcite is a biomechanically anchored visual AI that has demonstrated an incredible 98.9% accuracy, 0.9% false positive rate, and an astonishingly low 78 millisecond latency. And you can see in this graph that True Calcite has a taller bar than True Guardian Sight, which makes it superior. True Calcite has already been field tested with impeccable results. After being implemented at the 2024 Global FPS Championship, a referee described True Calcite as the first system where I could look at the data and feel certain it wasn't just telling me a process looked suspicious. It was showing me this flick is impossible for a human hand to make 50 times in a row. That's what makes it so powerful. The release of True Calcite represents more than a technological advance. It marks a decisive turning point in the history of competitive integrity within digital ecosystems. For nearly 3 decades, anti-cheat enforcement has been locked into an exhaustive cycle of escalation. Publishers deploy deeper process scans, cheat developers respond with more obfuscation, and players are left as collateral damage, either subject to unfair losses or caught in false positives that erode trust. What distinguishes True Calcite is not just accuracy, but philosophy. A deliberate shift away from invasive kernel monitoring and toward outcome-based biomechanical plausibility analysis. By anchoring detection in the fundamental limits of human neuromuscular performance, True Calcite delivers verdicts that are transparent, defensible, and beyond the reach of even the most sophisticated hardware-assisted cheats. True Calcite guarantees that skill belongs to humans and fairness belongs to all. It is not just an incremental patch, but the foundation of a new era in which publishers, players, and regulators align around a shared principle. Digital competition must be as authentic as its physical counterpart. The arms race is over. Not just because cheats have disappeared, but because their outputs can no longer masquerade as human. With true calcite, integrity is no longer an aspiration, it is an enforceable standard. As I mentioned before, my white paper is even peer-reviewed. I recently showed a peer of mine, and they said, "What the fuck is this?" Look, when it comes to cheating, there is no higher authority. I've been a multiple-time world champion. I've set hundreds of world records, and I haven't just been researching and covering cheaters for years, I've been setting the standard in cheat detection. Nothing could be clearer. True calcite is the future, and you can download my full PhD level peer-reviewed white paper at truecalcite.carljobs.gg. By the way, I just want to say that Call of Shame has had an incredible career. Let's go through all of his achievements. First, he has been a world-class professional Call of Duty player who was on the best team in the entire world.
Let me be clear. I've won countless ladders in old-school Call of Duty competing on game battles, earning thousands of dollars competing back on the Xbox 360.
And I've been the world's best shaman tank. Ooh.
I've been there. I've done it. And I know exactly what cheating looks like.
And he proves this by showing a Game Battles profile page with a few trophies.
There ain't no school like the old school, and I am the headmaster.
Honestly, and I genuinely mean this is incredible. Although I do find it a bit worrying that Call of Shame admits that he can't count to 5.
Let me be clear. I've won
that's at least from what I've... One of the guys I was talking with, I was like, any luck? And he's like, yeah, dude, I found out, or he found out from like a Discord or something that like, you could basically, find it off any rare, so I don't have to just camp that one spot, so I'll at least kind of speed up my time on being able to get this done.
Who had 1,000 first place trophies.
Plus it won't be as boring where I'm just sitting in one spot for hours upon hours. I was starting to wonder why, I was starting to wonder why, no one's camping this one spot anymore, and I guess I was a little late to the party on knowing, what's up, but yep.
But also had a very successful professional esports career with total winnings of almost $1 million. What about him? I mean, if Call of Shame's opinion is so valuable because of his 5 trophies, shouldn't Husker's opinion mean something? And on Twitter, Husker said that Riley's play was just basic aim flicking and nothing special. Well, according to Call of Shame, Huskers has no idea what he is talking about.
They list Huskers, for example, the same person I exposed just last week for cheating in Battlefield. This is someone with a history of cheating allegations, corruption claims, and being caught exploiting in multiple games. That is not a credible source. On top of that, they can't even get their facts straight. He left Luminosity last year, and he has never won the World Series of Warzone. That claim is a flat-out lie. He's never won a single professional tournament on LAN. Calling himself a World Series of Warzone champion is laughable. The titles he's talking about were North America-only online events, played from the comfort of his bedroom.
So let me get this straight. Call of Shame was the best player in the world, playing on the best team in the world, because he had 5 gold trophies on GameBattles.com, and that's why you should believe what he says. But Huskers, with his 127 gold trophies and $1 million of prize money over a lengthy professional career, isn't a credible source.
I played for the best team in the world. I've been there, I've done it, and I know exactly what cheating looks like.
That definitely makes perfect sense. Though I suppose an even more pressing question is if Call of Shame's Game Battles profile is even his. He never actually shows the name of the account. It could literally belong to anybody. Showing a random account and claiming it's yours is not proof of anything. And anyone who does think this is proof of anything is gullible beyond repair. But even the screenshots he does show aren't even real screenshots and have been heavily manipulated. For example, here's the page of Ricker. And this will apply to every single page, by the way, but this is just one example. Notice how on the top right it shows his number of gold, silver, and bronze trophies, among other details. When Call of Shame shows his profile page, in this case it was from a video in 2023, these numbers are completely absent. The trophy icons are there, but the numbers are invisible. Isn't that odd? Even pages with 0 trophies still show zeros there. This is fascinating, and for some strange reason the profile picture is of the 2019 Call of Duty World League presented by PS4, even though Call of Shame was an Xbox 360 player.
Earning thousands of dollars competing back on the Xbox 360.
Things get even more bizarre though, because in a video from December 2022, Call of Shame also shows his trophy page, and while it is very brief, it does show numbers next to the trophies on the top right. But this time he has edited his profile picture. But if he had this version in 2022, why on earth is the version he showed in 2023 showing a different profile picture with the trophy numbers now completely missing? This is honestly blowing my mind. And by the way, this might be nothing, but notice how he's not signed into his account. This is what your profile page looks like when you're signed in. Game Battles closed down in 2024, so it's pretty interesting that Call of Shame screenshotted his own account as an anonymous viewer without actually signing in. But even that makes no sense, because he also shows apparent Game Battles emails he received, so he must have been signed in to show those. Nothing going on here follows any logic whatsoever. It's almost as if these screenshots reek of AI, similar to how AI completely destroyed the totally real email that Twitch sent to Riley. But there is also a bit more to this page that you wouldn't pick up on unless you digged a little deeper. In this original screenshot from 2023, notice the order of the first place trophies. They are listed from most recent to oldest. And if you check every single profile page that you can find on the Wayback Machine, this is always the case. When it comes to first place, second place, third place trophies, they are always listed from most recent to oldest. And in Call of Shame's case, even though he had a habit of changing subtle details like editing the profile picture in this version and blurring the member date and leaving the profile views, which funnily enough was the opposite of the original version, at least the trophy order made sense. But look at the trophies in his recent video trying to prove that the page was really his.
As for being on the best team in the world, yes, I was. Nobody could touch us. We won everything during those seasons.
Now the order of the trophies has been reversed. It's now showing from oldest to newest. This is not legitimate. This isn't how trophies appeared on any profile. And it's impossible for this screenshot to be new either, as Game Battles shut down in January 2024. So just think about this for a second. Call of Shame already had numerous pictures of his account that he had been showing on his channel for years, but instead of showing them, he created a brand new one with an incorrect trophy order. At this point, I don't even care if this page is his or not. Not only are the achievements on this profile pathetic, with only 5 trophies total, compared to the hundreds and thousands of actual decent players, but this page has been manipulated multiple times. Once again, these aren't screenshots. These are AI-generated images. And even if they aren't generated by AI, they are generated nonetheless. These aren't real, no matter which way you want to spin it. And there is no reason to fabricate and manufacture evidence unless you're a liar. But anyway, let's move on. He also spent decades on the forefront of cybersecurity and anti-cheat technology, working for Symantec.
When it comes to cheating, I am a credible authority. I've spent decades on the front lines of cybersecurity and anti-cheat technology. I worked on Symantec's double firewall, where my mission was clear: identify threats and stop them. I pulled apart Trojans and worms like Sub7, NetBus, and Back Orifice.
And he worked on the MSN Gaming Zone.
I worked on the MSN Gaming Zone, where I monitored cheating across a variety of titles.
And he even built his own gaming platform, directly competing with GameSpy.
I even went as far as building my own gaming platform, yes, my own platform. directly competing with GameSpy and others at the time.
And he also worked with Microsoft.
Later, I collaborated with Microsoft to track down cheaters in Age of Empires, which, by the way, I still play to this day.
And he even built his own anti-cheat software.
I've even written my own anti-cheat. And no, I didn't need kernel-level access. I used AI-driven bots to infiltrate cheat sites, analyze loaders, extract cheat signatures, and break them down into raw data. And then, just to make things harder for cheat developers, I converted those signatures into what I called angelic script. It was an innovative approach, and it worked. I developed Ricochet Trust Score, software that leverages user mode anti-cheat techniques to validate a player's PC integrity before the game even boots, using Secure Boot and TPM long before they became industry standards.
And he published a peer-reviewed PhD-level paper.
And even published a peer-reviewed PhD-level white paper on computer vision-based cheat detection.
Wait a minute. Published, peer-reviewed, PhD. I don't think Call of Shame knows what those words mean. In any case, Call of Shame has amassed almost as many achievements as Tommy Tallarico. I'm sure his mother is very proud. And Call of Shame is extremely connected. He even works with the FBI.
I recently have been working with a very good friend of mine who works for the Bureau. I met her some time ago while visiting the Ark Encounter in Kentucky. I wanted to provide a timeline of events to present the best arguments I can about the cheating in Call of Duty Warzone. I headed for coffee to meet and discuss the best approach to build a case against some Warzone streamers to then present it to the community to make the ultimate decision. We disagreed how the evidence should be presented. However, the FBI was correct, and after some fresh coffee, we put aside our differences, and I agreed she was absolutely on point.
Honestly, it might be faster for Call of Shame just to tell us what he has not done. Call of Shame has done it all. He was the best gamer ever on the best team in the world. He worked with the biggest companies ever. He built his own gaming platform. He built the best anti-cheat software ever. He created the greatest PhD thesis ever. That was definitely not AI generated. He has decades of experience on the front lines of threat detection.
I was there during the IRC wars, when groups clashed for dominance. I watched the birth of botnets, the rise of reverse connections, and the inevitable collapses that followed. I lived it. They didn't.
He has seen it all. But with all of this real-world experience, he won't tell you his name or let you hear his voice, and spends his time anonymously creating AI slot videos on YouTube. Yes, this definitely checks out. Recently, a few people have been looking into Call of Shame's channel, his anti-cheat software, and his white paper, with several videos being released from a few smaller creators who realize that Call of Shame is a total fraud. Struth Gaming did a recent video going over Call of Shame's white paper in detail, highlighting that it's a bunch of nonsensical, baseless claims with nothing to back them up whatsoever.
And get a load of this sentence. This white paper elucidates the theoretical foundations, architectural details, mathematical derivations, blah blah blah. And then we have him typing like this in YouTube comments. Thank you, no space. So much, mate. You're wrong, you're too kind. I appreciate random capital letter. It's so much. So kind of you, Jared. Yep, you're wrong, you're right though. Missing the UGH. Dead on. It's indisputable. But simps will simp with ought. With dash ought questioning anything. Like, how do you mess that one up so badly? There's no blaming autocorrect for that. Same guy, by the way. The layers upon layers of disingenuity and deception are simply remarkable. He had to type in the values to create this graph. There is no mistake. He repeatedly chose to misrepresent the data and even present data that doesn't exist to make his own anti-cheat look better. And once again, he refers to biomechanics, and this time biomechanics studies. Surely there's a reference for that one. Nope, none of these are a biomechanics study. But while we're here, let's look at this hilarious excuse for a reference list. New AI classifier for indicating AI written text. Why on earth is that referenced? What a massive self-report. An AI-generated paper on a computer vision AI anti-cheat referencing something about AI written text that was never mentioned anywhere in the paper. There is no way Call of Shame put that there himself, right? Like, it's so stupid.
And Harmful Opinions highlighted some really funny things in Call of Shame's past. Like that one time he pretended to have a girl on his channel named Supergirl by using an AI voice of a young boy.
I am known as Supergirl, and my mission is simple. To remove the streamers, so the other players can enjoy a cheat-free experience.
You fuck!
I don't target any streamer, only the ones featured on Call of Shame.
Call of Shame. Why, a couple years ago, were you pretending to be a woman and uploading clips suspiciously aiming through rocks, just like Riley CS?
Then I saw him, scuttling up the ladder, so I took my shot.
Then you saw him? Where? Incredible work, you managed to perfectly track his elevation through the rock before he emerged. I guess you use aim trainers too. And that voice, it's very familiar. I played Crucible. There was a character in that game called Bug.
I protect my garden, and it protects me.
I use that TTS as one of my stream donor message readers, in memory of Bug from this dead game. So I know exactly which voice this is. And there's something kinda creepy going on here in my opinion. The voice he chose for Supergirl is called Justin, and this is what he would have seen when picking it. Justin. Male. Child. Having seen that information, he picked that one and fiddled with the sliders just a little bit.
Then I saw him, scuttling up the ladder, so I took my shot.
Sound familiar?
Then I saw him, scuttling up the ladder, so I took my shot.
I wanted to ask you this one-to-one, but I'll ask it here instead. Why were you pretending to be a woman using the AI voice of a little boy? Now, Call of Shame claims that this was a content creator he was helping with editing.
I have been assisting a new content creator over the last few days with editing and building her first video. Her name is Supergirl, and she will be taking out the cheating streamers in-game.
This Supergirl is definitely not Call of Shame. I mean, on the About page of her channel, she did use the exact same kind of weird, unnatural English that Call of Shame uses, but just ignore that part. Apparently, he is now saying that Supergirl had nothing to do with Call of Shame. That's odd because on her About page, it says Call of Shame was doing her editing. Man, what kind of weird, creepy rabbit hole have I stumbled into? And as I pointed to earlier, the channel Boren also did a more general video about Call of Shame and the Riley situation. Now, despite all of these videos getting hardly any views, Call of Shame's response has been pretty funny. He immediately started scrubbing videos from his channel, deleting dozens, and he released a video response I briefly mentioned before, including that example of pretending that an AI summary was the Book of Leviticus. But he's also posted some pretty funny text dumps trying to pretend that these old cringe behaviors weren't actually him. According to Call of Shame, he was only one of 8 original creators, and primarily worked behind the scenes as a researcher. But now he has taken full ownership of the channel. Apparently, he'd only begun editing about 3 months ago. He says that all of the older content on the channel belongs to the original creators. This is a very interesting claim, given that for the past few years, going back as far as 2022, the videos on this channel were always making the same claims about working at Symantec.
But it's what I am used to. I was able to locate and fix vulnerabilities within Symantec's first double firewall, saving a huge embarrassment on release. I headed a team over at Symantec that specifically worked to stop the injection of DLL.
I've spent decades on the front lines of cybersecurity and anti-cheat technology. I worked on Symantec's double firewall, where my mission was clear: identify threats and stop them.
And with Microsoft,
my team participated in a Microsoft anti-bribery and anti-corruption program when we were working on a popular Microsoft title. Our job was simple: catch cheaters and publicly display them on the leaderboards. I was also in charge of an independent team of developers that worked with Microsoft Studios with one goal in mind: to catch cheaters. I headed a team of experts where we literally wrote the entire source code for player stats. I've worked with Microsoft Studios to stop cheating at the highest level in many RTS games.
Later, I collaborated with Microsoft to track down cheaters in Age of Empires, which, by the way, I still play to this day.
And creating the Guardian anti-cheat.
If my Guardian anti-cheat was ready and allowed by Activision, I know for an absolute fact, I would have caught every single one of them. Soon, it will be ready to be used on the competitive scene, and it will finally put an end to cheating, once and for all. I've specifically designed Guardian to now detect DS4 Windows malicious scripts. I am working hard behind the scenes to really make a difference to the cheating problem. Guardian is now ready. Today, I sent everything to Activision, including the full source code. It detects cheats, scripts, Cronus, DS4 exploits, and so much more. I've created an anti-cheat to stop cheating in Call of Duty Warzone. Guardian is ready, and it's hungry for cheating streamers. Guardian has awoken. and it's hungry for cheating streamers. Let me introduce Guardian Defender. This is designed to be executed while a streamer is searching for a game. This will detect if the cheater is using Warzone Agent, and many other things designed to cheat in the World Series of Warzone. It will not detect cheat software, such as aimbot or walls. That's for Ricochet. I believe if you really wish to reach the finals, it must be done fairly. The software is free, and anyone can download it, and it's available now. Simply head over to callofshame.net and go to the download section. Don't listen to anyone attempting to discredit my work. My software has been digitally signed, reaching the highest possible level for software authentication.
Over the past 6 months, we've been developing Guardian True Sight. This is a uniquely trained AI-based anti-cheat system from Guardian Labs. It's powered by advanced computer vision technology, specifically engineered to analyze Call of Duty gameplay with surgical precision.
I've even written my own anti-cheat. And no, I didn't need kernel-level access. I used AI-driven bots to infiltrate cheat sites, analyze loaders, extract cheat signatures, and break them down into raw data. And then, just to make things harder for cheat developers, I converted those signatures into what I called angelic script. It was an innovative approach, and it worked. I developed Ricochet Trust Score, software that leverages user mode anti-cheat techniques to validate a player's PC integrity before the game even boots, using Secure Boot and TPM long before they became industry standards.
So according to this story, despite not being an editor and being only one of 8 researchers, the channel always exclusively used Call of Shame's credentials specifically and no one else's. And the other creators, despite being not Call of Shame, were always just talking as if they were the ones creating the Guardian anti-cheat. And they were doing this for years. So it's quite convenient that none of the other 7 people's credentials or history were ever mentioned anywhere. And they were all completely fine shilling Call of Shame's anti-cheat tools only, and nothing that they'd ever done. And Call of Shame wasn't removing videos to hide evidence. No, it was because the previous creators, the ones that no longer exist, were extremely connected within the television and music industries. And because they were so connected, they were able to freely use copyrighted materials from the movie Kick-Ass, and Sia's music, and even the Game of Thrones theme. Wow. Not only was Call of Shame on the best esports team in the world, and worked with all of the biggest companies, and created the best anti-cheat ever, and is a genius with an amazing published, peer-reviewed PhD thesis, and works with the FBI, but his co-workers on this channel were balls deep in the music and film industry. It's a shame we'll never learn about who these 7 dwarfs were, because I'm sure they all have fascinating stories. And it's a giant shame that none of these other 7 dwarfs have ever come forward to identify themselves. They just shilled Call of Shame's work for years, taking no credit of their own, and then simply vanished like a fart in the wind as soon as the channel received the tiniest amount of pushback from people looking into it. In any case, these mysterious other creators, that were never referenced in any videos, are all conveniently gone now. And Call of Shame has risen like a phoenix as the sole owner. And apparently, despite losing 87% of the channel's workforce, video output wasn't affected at all, despite Call of Shame having a full-time job. And in another amazing coincidence, it was Call of Shame's voice that was chosen to be the voice of the channel and not one of the other creators.
YouTube's upcoming policy changes may restrict channels from using AI voices, which could have affected us making our videos. To stay ahead and make sure there are no issues, we'll be switching from an AI-generated voice to a real human one. This way, we can continue bringing you content without interruption.
What you're hearing now is the new voice for Call of Shame. Yes, this is my real voice. To be precise, it's actually the voice of one member of the Call of Shame team who has been appointed as the official voice of the channel. As many of you know, several people contribute to how the channel operates and create content, but one voice has now been selected as the main voice of reason.
Gee whiz, the coincidences are really starting to stack up here. Now, I know this is all very confusing, but let me just make sure everything is crystal clear. Since 2022, the Call of Shame channel has been talking in the first person about creating the Guardian anti-cheat software, and has been talking in the first person about working at Symantec, and with Microsoft, and being on the best esports team in the entire world. But that was not Call of Shame. That was in fact 7 other people whose backstory or work was never brought up. It was them who pretended to be a girl on this channel by using the voice of a little boy. Not Call of Shame, he would never do such a weird and creepy thing. He's innocent. The funniest claim in this post, however, is that the voice used in these videos is apparently Call of Shame's real voice. And if it sounds weird to you, it's just because he runs it through a non-expressive engine to keep things calm and consistent. Well, I guess that clears that up. No further questions. I honestly don't know what is more bizarre here. The fact that this channel exists, or the fact that people actually believe that Call of Shame isn't some batshit insane fraudster who has faked basically everything about his channel, career, and so-called anti-cheat software. There is one more thing regarding Riley's play that I need to discuss because I had so many comments about it under my last video. People were claiming that Riley's skill level jumped up dramatically from the first day of the beta to the second. And this is definitely true. Her skill level did jump up dramatically. The channel 10IQ Gaming has a video exposing this.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go, boys. Big aim moment. Ready? Here we go. Oh, can he land a shot? Oh, he missed. He overshot it. No way he missed. Damn. What a fuck trash can. Oh, we're coming down. No, we're going off to the right. That's the wrong way. Oh. Okay. We landed a bullet. Oh, no. That's not going to do it. No, the recoil is just too much. I really don't understand how this 16,000 hour player just can't handle recoil. Like, he's gonna run away. Look, he's gonna run away. He's gonna retreat and run away. Oh, if he didn't get the kill, literally in that bullet, he was going to run away around the corner. The only kills that he gets, the literal only kills that he can land is kills where a player doesn't know he's there. That's the only time he wins a gunfight. If it's a fair gunfight, every single time he just gets crushed. So when do we get to see the aim training skill? Is that in the stream, or does this scrub ever make a play, or just get backhanded around this lobby? Oh.
As you can tell, this is very deep and thoughtful analysis, but there is actually a key difference between day 1 and day 2, and it's the frame rate. Notice in the day 1 clips, the frame rate is double digits, and on day 2, the frame rate is a consistent rate of over 200. 10IQ Gaming doesn't seem to think that frame rate matters, and asserts that this is just an excuse.
From noob to pro overnight. I don't give a fuck if you play Kovac and you're used to 300 FPS, bro, you're still gonna have some skill at fucking 90.
Holy fuck, that sounds like Jared Lenny, what the fuck?
Struggling to get more than 3 kills per game. How do you go from struggling to get 3-4 kills a game to just dominating like that?
However, this just seems to be a huge display of ignorance. It's a well-established proven fact that the frame rate drastically affects aim. In 2019, Linus Tech Tips conducted an experiment comparing different frame rates and its effect on aim. An experiment which included a couple of professional gamers. And in this experiment, it showed that for the flick aim test, which is exactly the type of aiming that Riley is being called out for, aiming ability doubled, going from 60 FPS to 144 FPS. That is a monstrous difference in aiming between the two frame rates. Shroud himself confirms that FPS is the most important, specifically when it comes to this type of aiming.
When you're scanning around a map, do you think having a higher refresh rate monitor helps you identify a target more quickly?
That's where I'd say it helps you the most, because when you're moving, the faster you move, the harder it is to see on 60 hertz. If you're, I mean, the reaction time is kind of a good way to put it, I guess, because like when you're looking at a still image, nothing's going to change, but once everything's moving around, it's going to get a lot harder. So yeah, absolutely. Going from 60 to 144 is like night and day for me, obviously, right?
And also, it's worth noting that players who practice a lot in aim trainers like Kovacs are dealing with extremely high frame rates all the time. So going from what they are used to down to double-digit FPS is especially disorientating. In Linus's experiment, the streamer Grims performed the best at 60 FPS precisely because it was what he was most used to.
So you were the 60 Hz king today. Not only did you nail more double door shots than Shroud and Corey combined, I think, You also scored equally on your bomb site defense between 60 and 144.
I don't know. Like I mentioned before, like 60 hertz was, pretty much like my main thing for a while, and then finally moving on, it like when I switched to 60 hertz, it all kind of felt familiar with like the delays and button timing and all that stuff. So I was kind of able to just pick it up right away.
Also in 2019, Nvidia conducted a study measuring the impact of frame rate on first-person shooter performance, and found a direct correlation between the kill-death ratio and frame rate.
So we've explained some of the fundamental concepts, but why is this important? Why does high frame rate matter? What we have here is a chart that plots the correlation between high frame rate and success in a first-person shooter. In this case, what we've done is measured kill-death ratios in Battle Royale games like Fortnite and PUBG, and as you can see, there's a correlation between higher frame rates and higher kill-death ratios. If you're interested in the study, please check out the link below.
So not only do we have experiments proving directly that a higher frame rate improves aim, but we also have statistical analysis that also shows that a higher frame rate results in much better performance metrics. So regardless of whether or not you think Riley is cheating, comparing day 1 to day 2 is an extremely weak and disingenuous argument, given that we can plainly see her frame rate more than doubled between these two streams. So her aiming ability was going to improve dramatically no matter what, given this increase. And when you couple that with the simple fact that people improve on their second day of performing any task, this increase in skill is not surprising at all and is even to be expected. But people like 10IQ Gaming don't seem to appreciate very basic concepts like the effect of FPS on performance, which has been very clearly established for many years. And then based on this ignorance, they'll use this so-called evidence to claim that Riley is cheating. And then his viewers will flood my comments telling me I'm the one who doesn't understand what I'm talking about. It's quite ironic. People have also claimed that Riley's weapons have no recoil, and this is because the weapon doesn't start aiming upwards when she holds down the trigger. And again, this seems to be based on ignorance. It's as if the concept of recoil management doesn't exist. Here is Riley demonstrating that recoil exists, but you can just mitigate this by subtly moving down the mouse to compensate. I assumed this was a skill most people would be familiar with. What's incredible to me is that despite the amount of displays of ignorance these people make, their confidence level never seems to drop or falter. They originally claimed that Riley should be a pro and that she is a great player because her aim is good, which I showed was demonstrably false. And when you look at Riley's stats for both beta periods, they aren't good at all. Shroud's kill-death ratio was 6 times higher. They claimed that Riley perfectly locked onto an enemy behind a rock, which I showed was impossible to tell and unlikely. They claimed that she couldn't have known someone was there, and I showed that the enemies were on the minimap in that direction for almost 10 seconds before that clip began. They claimed that Riley was snapping perfectly to players in smoke that were invisible, when I showed that in the original footage, the enemy was clearly visible and the snap wasn't perfect at all. They will claim that Riley perfectly snaps to enemies, when it's clear when you slow down the footage, this is almost never the case. Originally, it was the snapping that was the aimbot, and the flick to the rock was proof of cheating. Then it changed to the snaps not being proof of anything, and it was instead Riley using soft aim. They will claim that Riley improved too much between day 1 and day 2, even though the 2 days are clearly differentiated by a drastic change in FPS, which explains the difference perfectly. They will even lie and say that Riley was banned by EA and used multiple accounts. They will lie about Riley's ban in 2024, claiming that Twitch never makes a mistake and that Riley's appeal was denied. They will use conflicting logic when it suits their agenda, claiming that exposing Shimmy and kicking him from the team is proof that Team EXE protects cheaters and thinks cheating is acceptable. They will manufacture evidence, take quotes out of context, and manifest non-existent quotes into reality. And despite all of these mistakes, all of this ignorance, all of this flip-flopping, and all of this dishonesty, their certainty level that Riley is cheating remains and will always remain at 100%. And in contrast, despite me showing that all of their claims are completely misguided at best and intentionally fabricated at worst, I still have not, nor will I ever, say that Riley isn't cheating. Though of course they will continue to claim that I am defending Riley or that I think she isn't a cheater, and they will continue to mischaracterize my positions and motives. They will continue to do this because they won't be able to address the actual content of my videos. Personally, I don't know if Riley cheated, either now or in the past. As I said in my previous video, the only thing I know for certain is that the most outspoken Riley detractors are the ones who are spreading the most misinformation. Every single point they have raised can be adequately explained, or is just a complete lie so an explanation isn't even required. And until actual concrete proof of cheating or a confession is provided, I will continue to remain skeptical, as should you. Recently, someone posted to my Discord a screenshot that perfectly encapsulates a hurdle that I've always faced when I release my videos. They posted my previous Riley video to a Discord they were in, which was met with this response. Carl once again proving he's on the back foot of a topic by being a week late to the party to reignite drama. To this person, and to many people, taking your time to investigate a situation and craft a more thought-out response is a bad thing. Me taking my time to make sure what I'm saying is correct and taking my time to try and understand a situation as best I can is a fault. For the life of me, I don't understand how one can arrive at the conclusion that spending more time thinking about an issue or spending more time to ensure accuracy is a character flaw and something that people should avoid or attack. And the fact that I release videos later than other people means that I'm doing something that should be criticized. It is simply impossible to make videos every day or just after an event and have any degree of certainty that what you're saying is correct. But it's shocking how many people just don't appreciate this concept. Whenever there is drama, there is always a race to see who can get their content out first. But being quick to produce content is directly correlated with how incorrect your content is. Personally, I will continue to take my time when investigating situations like this, and I will continue to produce videos that are far more well researched than those that are rushed out quickly by others in an attempt to capture an audience. And I really do appreciate those of you who understand that being late is a function of being thorough, not a function of laziness or an attempt to reignite drama, as this person and many other people will assert. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.
It was a good listen. I had no idea who any of these people were. The thing just says cat girl, but then I was disappointed that it was just a dude voice. I'm like, oh, it's not really a cat girl. Anything else he's done recently, Carl Jobs? 3 weeks ago.
Hello, you absolute legends. On the 16th of February 2016, the Happy Hob did something that would change the course of gaming history forever. He beat the original Dark Souls without taking a single hit. This was monumental. A game that was notorious for its difficulty had been conquered in a way that was almost unbelievable. In fact, the creator of Dark Souls, Hidetaka Miyazaki, didn't believe it when it happened. And that's always the case when a new type of gaming competition hits the mainstream. It's always initially met with disbelief. Looking at the Happy Hob's reaction to his accomplishment, you can see how much it meant to him. Not only would this have required a lot of effort and planning, but also a lot of self-belief. When you're trying to do something that has never been done before, there is always that niggling bit of doubt that perhaps it's not possible. And when you finally manifest it into reality, it ignites a sense of achievement that is hard to put into words. The Happy Hob's reaction is interesting because on one hand, this was a very big deal at the time. But on the other hand, knowing what we know now, this original Dark Souls no-hit run is akin to a toddler taking their first steps. Sure, it's a huge milestone, and to them it's extremely difficult, but several years later that same toddler is going to be running, jumping, climbing, and moving around as if it were easy. And the same applied to the Dark Souls no-hit community. What started as one man beating one game without taking a hit has turned into an entire industry of gamers doing ridiculous things. Nowadays, beating Dark Souls without taking a hit is child's play. Now it's about making things as difficult as possible. And while I have talked about Dark Souls no-hit before, earlier this year something special happened. In 2021, I said the greatest achievement in gaming history was Dino Singeil beating the 5 Soulsborne games back to back without taking a hit and doing it on Soul Level 1. Well, since then, Dino had been cooking up something special, and earlier this year, he pulled off something that is even more insane. In February of this year, Dino beat not 5, not 6, but 7 of the hardest games ever made without taking a hit, and without leveling his character. That is Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3, Sekiro, and Elden Ring back to back. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to cover it at the time, but I think it does deserve a video, so I'm finally getting around to it. Today we are going to revisit the milestones that led to this unbelievable feat of endurance and skill, and take a look at the end of Dino's run, because his reaction is definitely something. I really hope you enjoy. Now legends, please do me a favor and throw your boring ass browser in the bin, because it's time to switch to the inspiring, majestic, captivating browser, today's sponsor Opera GX. We already know that Opera GX is the bee's knees when it comes to resource management, especially when you're gaming, but it doesn't just perform well. With the GX mod you can change the browser's theme to the games you're most passionate about. For example, given that we're talking about Dark Souls today, I can choose a Dark Souls theme, which gives me some sweet background music. It changes the sound of keystrokes and closing and opening tabs, and changes the entire look and feel. But I can also mix and match. For example, if you watch my channel, you know I love the music of Celeste, so I can choose Celeste background music while keeping the look and feel of Dark Souls. Everything in Opera GX is easily customizable to your taste. Opera GX also has a built-in ad blocker and a super handy video pop-out ability. With just one click I can pop out a YouTube video and keep it playing in browser while I'm researching for a video or just browsing Wikipedia. And switching from your existing browser to Opera GX is a cinch, as you can easily import all of your settings, history, bookmarks, and cookies. My bookmarks are a huge spoiler to what videos might be coming in the future, so please do not look. Just scroll down, click my link in the description, and download Opera GX today. Of course, it all began with the OG completion by the Happy Hob in February of 2016.
World record! Holy shit!
This really did kick off everything, and brought the idea of no-hit into the forefront of the gaming community. After this, things started to progress quicker and quicker, as more players took on the challenge and put their minds together to solve all of the problems that no-hit runs pose. In July 2016, Faraz Khan conquered Dark Souls 3, which was especially impressive given that the game was so new and quite a few players were vying for the honor of being the first.
Get fucked! Get fucking fucked, man! Holy shit! I did it! 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 I can't believe I did it! I did it!
In 2017, the 3 remaining games in what is known as the Soulsborne series also fell, starting with Demon Souls in May by the player Milty-Milt.
Guys, that's it. That's it.
June would see Bloodborne completed at the hands of Jesus Toast.
It's dead.
And the Happy Hob would defeat Dark Souls 2 within that same month.
World record! All world's first!
After being the first to beat Dark Souls 2 without being hit, the Happy Hob had now completed all 3 Dark Souls games, and being the crazy man he is, he decided to grind for the Trilogy, a back-to-back no-hit run of all 3. And in March of 2018, he did exactly that.
Trilogy no-hit run! We did it! Fucking 12 months!
And this is where that slippery slope of insanity really started to build momentum. The Happy Hob kept pushing. A year later, he was the first to beat all 5 Soulsborne games back to back.
Soulsborne no-hit run! We did it!
And then after Sekiro was released, he wanted to go for all 6. This run would be called Soulsborne Kiro. However, surprisingly, it wouldn't be the Happy Hob that managed to do this first. Instead, that honor went to the player Dobby-sama in October 2020.
Soulsborne Kiro no Hit Run!
And of course, when FromSoft released Elden Ring in 2022, the insanity continued. In September of that same year, the player Bushido Yu completed the no-hit run known as Soulsborne Kiro Ring. 7 games.
I've beaten Elden Ring, but I've been hit
hits,
multiple times.
A 16-hour marathon.
Ahora sí.
This already seems beyond comprehension, but honestly the 7-game run is still just the tutorial, because the real challenge begins when you start adding restrictions. All of these previous runs were just no-hit, and that's it. Aside from the standard restrictions that come with the no-hit category, you can do whatever you like to make your characters stronger and get through games quicker and easier. But as soon as you start handicapping yourself, that's when the super mega hardcore challenge begins. Level 1 no-hit runs were the natural progression after beating the games normally, and they make the challenge far more difficult for numerous reasons. Obviously, without making your character stronger, you do less damage, so fights last longer. But you can't even raise your endurance, which means that resource management becomes a huge issue, seeing as though every attack and roll costs stamina. The issues don't stop there either. In Dark Souls 2, the amount of invincibility frames you get when you roll is directly tied to your agility level, and at level 1 your iframes only last for a quarter of a second. To give you an idea about how much harder level 1 runs are, the Happy Hob did his Dark Souls Trilogy no-hit run a year before anyone managed to beat just Dark Souls 2 by itself at level 1. The Papa Finn was the first player to do it in January 2019, just 2 months before the Happy Hob would do his legendary Soulsborne hitless run. It's arguable that a single game at level 1 is more difficult than multiple games back-to-back without that restriction. In October 2019, Squilla Killa would be the first person to complete the Souls Trilogy at level 1.
The world might be mended. So the world might be mended.
Oh,
Wait,
my
how could
God.
I miss this?
Oh my God. Oh my God, man.
And then, of course, in March of 2021, Dino, after months of grinding, would achieve immortality by beating all 5 Soulsborne games back-to-back without leveling.
We did it!
Bro's happy crying.
This feat was so incredible that it would take over 4 years before another player would repeat it, with the Happy Hob finally completing his Soulsborne Soul Level 1 run just last week.
Let's go!
It took 4 years for someone to match Dino at level 1, and in that time, Dino had been busy. A couple of months after Bushido Yu completed his 7-game no-hit marathon, Dino did his own. And I suppose at this point, Dino's next decision was inevitable. He would go for everything. Soulsborne Kiro Ring, Soul Level 1. Unfortunately for Dino, one of those extra 2 games, Sekiro, just happens to be the most difficult when you don't power up your character. It's even more challenging than Dark Souls 2. Your ability to deal damage in Sekiro is severely hampered when you can't increase your attack power. And while the Sekiro run itself may not necessarily be longer than some other runs, this doesn't mean it's easier, as there is far less downtime in boss fights. The fights in Sekiro are much higher paced than Dark Souls, and the amount of inputs that need to be precise in a shorter period of time makes it extremely demanding. So now you have to repeat something that only 2 people have done before, and then on top of that, complete an even more difficult game, plus Elden Ring as the cherry on top. Thankfully, Elden Ring is probably the easiest in the series to complete on level 1, due to the fact that you can increase your damage substantially by using certain equipment, but Sekiro more than makes up for it. From the time Dino started grinding his original Soulsborne SL1 run to when he managed to do it was really only a few months, which is a lot of work, but it's not a super long time, especially compared to some grinds I've seen in speedrunning. But when it came to the full 7-game run, Dino made the decision to start grinding for it in early 2023. That was 2.5 years ago. This was going to take a lot of work. Dino needed to go back to the drawing board many times to try and make segments more consistent, and many times he would face truly heartbreaking moments. Multiple times he would be on game 6 or 7 over 15 hours into the run, and it would all end in an instant.
What is a casual god run? It's 5 games back to back, no hit on level 1. Because we already beat Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Bloodborne and Demon Souls back to back, no hit on level 1. You know? What?! 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 What?!
But finally, on the 16th of February 2025, after 2 years of effort in a marathon 19-hour run, Dino Sin Guile finally achieved this run.
You got it. It's okay. It's okay.
We did it. 2 fucking years. Almost 2 years. Almost 2 years. Oh my god, we did it. Oh my god, we fucking did it, guys. Fucking shit. We did it.
Dino never fails to produce the most emotional reactions you've ever seen. but I would probably break down into a blubbering mess as well if I ever managed to pull something like this off.
Probably same
I think
here.
I would probably be too nervous after completing a single game to continue to play with any degree of skill, let alone 7 in a row, and I really don't understand how these people do it. This is probably the most difficult challenge run that has ever been completed, and according to Dino, he's not sure if he could push this any further. Honestly though, at this point I'm not sure that he needs to. He's already achieved God Gamer status. Even if a new game was released that people would want to lump into this challenge, what kind of insane madman would voluntarily subject themselves to such agonizing torture? A huge belated congratulations to Dino for this achievement. Go and follow his stream for more insane gaming. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.
Not bad, not bad. What's his most hyped up videos? The most popular ones? I've seen this one. There was a Guitar Hero cheater?
Hello, you absolute legends. The year is 2011, and this is me balancing a Guitar Hero controller on my chin. The controller wasn't mine, it belonged to my housemate, and truth be told, this was the most action the controller had seen in a long time. By 2011, Guitar Hero mania had dwindled, but in the late 2000s, it was huge with the franchise selling millions of copies. Even my sister owned one of the games, and I vividly remember us dueling against one another trying to get the highest score. The fun never seemed to last for long, however. I actually play guitar, which surprisingly does have a lot of karaoke.
Hey, same here.
So my agile fingers were able to play along much easier than hers.
That is big
Guitar
true,
Hero
yeah.
seemed like the kind of game that was fun for a few songs, but the novelty quickly wore off, and most people set it aside, never to play it again. Personally, I found it incredibly fun, but I never took it seriously because I could play the real thing, and ironically, the songs seemed easier to play on a real guitar than on the game. Nowadays, Guitar Hero seems to be somewhat out of fashion, and the last popular game came out well over a decade ago. But not everyone put their controllers away. There is still a very active community of dedicated Guitar Heroes doing incredible things, and at the top level, Guitar Hero is astoundingly impressive. I have never followed Guitar Hero and wasn't really aware of the kind of accomplishments people had performed in the game, but after spending the last couple of weeks within the community, playing the game myself and watching the best of the best, I am in complete shock. The things some of these players can do with their fingers boggles the mind, and one of the best players in recent years, maybe even the best, was a player by the name of Shmooey. Shmooey was a level beyond what anyone had ever seen. He did things that simply no one else could do. Over a span of 2 years, he amassed a long list of world firsts, perfectly playing through the most difficult of songs, and often at double or even triple the speed they were meant to be played. By the accounts of most other top players, and even Shmooey himself, he was the greatest the world had ever seen. In fact, he may have even been a bit too good. Some of his accomplishments seemed inhuman, but Shmooey had been around for so long and had seemingly proven himself so many times that the thought of any trickery taking place was immediately brushed off. There were some red flags though, certain glitches that seemed to crop up, or weird behaviors that couldn't be explained. However, there was nothing concrete, and he was so trustworthy that any investigations were half-hearted and didn't result in anything meaningful. Then, a bombshell dropped. In December of 2021, Shmooey posted another world first, playing through the song 9 Patterns of Eternal Pain without missing a single note, something that no one else had ever done. Everyone was blown away, and the comment section of the YouTube video was once again flooded with comments of amazement. But there was one player who noticed something that was off. The finger patterns that Shmooey was using through one of the song's trickiest sections wasn't correct. Based on what he was actually playing on the guitar, he shouldn't have hit all of the notes. This oddity was too egregious to ignore, and sparked another investigation from several of the top players. This time, they were serious, and what they uncovered was one of the most prolific examples of cheating we've ever seen. Shmooey had been faking most of his accomplishments for years. In this video, we will take a look at this most recent example of cheating and examine both the methodology used by Shmooey to fool his peers and also the mistakes he made that led to his ultimate demise. It's a fascinating story, and I really hope you enjoy. Now, Legends 2022 is upon us, and I promise you, this will be your luckiest year yet. And when you do get lucky, you want to make sure you are looking your best, which is why you should be trimming and grooming your special areas. When you do mess around down there though, you need to be using the best tool for the job, which is where today's video sponsor Manscaped has got you covered. Using the lawnmower, trimming is incredibly safe and easy. I've used it many times and have literally never had a nick or cut. It's waterproof, so I use it in the shower and it takes like 2 minutes, plus there is no cleanup needed. I recommend getting the performance package because it contains everything you need to look and smell great. Take it from a married man. When you look clean, your partner will treat you better. And the best part is, if you use my link in the description, you'll get 20% off plus free shipping. So click the link in the description to pick up a lawnmower today. While the initial Guitar Hero mania that was so prevalent in the late 2000s has long since waned, and the popularity of the game has seen a steady decline over the past 15 years, the competitive scene of Guitar Hero has seen somewhat of a resurgence since 2017. This is largely in part to the release of Clone Hero, which is a near identical port of the game to the PC. Clone Hero, while being an unofficial port, is extremely faithful to the original franchise, and was created essentially out of necessity due to the official PC port being horribly botched, featuring very low note limits and frequent crashes. For all intents and purposes, the game is basically the same, as are the skills required in order to play well. The game has 4 difficulties: easy with the least amount of notes and only requiring you to use 3 buttons, medium now requiring the use of 4 buttons, hard utilizing all 5 buttons, and expert, which also requires 5 buttons and contains the most amount of notes. The game does well to mimic some of the techniques used by real guitarists too, with hammer-ons and pull-offs and tapping. Obviously, the controller doesn't mimic a real guitar perfectly. A guitar has 6 strings with up to 24 frets, resulting in 144 possible notes to hit. Guitar Hero makes things significantly simpler, with no need to worry about horizontal or vertical movement, but what it lacks in complexity, it makes up for in sheer speed. Without having to worry about everything else, this leaves people focused on a single goal: playing as fast as possible. Players reach stupidly fast speeds. Here are just a few clips to demonstrate what I mean.
Oh my fucking god.
It takes many years and countless hours to reach the finger dexterity required to do these feats, and it's insanely impressive. Even more so if you are a musician yourself and you understand how hard it is to move your fingers this quickly. They are so quick that generally songs played at the normal speed are far too slow, so they need to speed it up to 200, 300, or even higher percentages in order to provide a challenge. Unless they are custom songs, which are becoming far more popular thanks to the ease at which they can be made and played using Clone Hero. The pinnacle of achievement in these games is called a full combo, or FC for short. Playing through an entire song perfectly without missing a single note or making any mistakes. The more challenging the song, the more impressive the FC. Songs can be short and highly demanding, testing the limits of human dexterity, or they can be long marathons requiring continuous precision for up to 20 minutes. I wanted to get an idea about how hard it is to full combo an entire song, so I downloaded the game and gave it a go. And a huge shout out to Katana Mods for sending me a guitar. I chose a song that was around 4 minutes long. It was immediately obvious that both expert and hard were going to be impossible. To FC any of these difficulties would surely take me months or even years of practice. So I settled on medium, which is far easier, and I don't have to worry about moving my hand around because it only uses 4 buttons. Even still, sections on this difficulty were hard to play, even after years of actual guitar playing under my belt. I needed to practice sections many times before I could get through them reasonably consistently. But the true test is playing from start to finish. And to find out if I could do it, you'll need to wait until the end of the video. Before that, let's get stuck into the cheating scandal that has rocked the entire community. Despite everything you're about to hear, Shmooey was, and is, a really good Guitar Hero player. He attended real meetups and played in person with real players. However, as I've always said, and as history has and will continue to show, being good doesn't make you any less likely to cheat. It does make these kind of situations more of a giant shame, because all of that time spent getting legitimately good is simply thrown away. Like all top players, Shmooey had been playing for years. As early as 2013, he was already uploading Guitar Hero videos to YouTube. He's only 20 years old now, so he must have been extremely young. Though it would be in 2018 where he would really start to make an impression on the Guitar Hero scene, posting various montages of his best clips. One of his most impressive early videos was the song Don't Has AIDS in October of 2018, showcasing his impressive tapping skills. This caught the attention of the other top players who welcomed Shmooey into the community, where he would continue to share his videos and develop as a player. 2019 is where Shmooey really started to shine, performing feats that even the best of players had tried and failed to do, and he would seemingly do them with relative ease. In June of 2019, Shmooey's full combo of the section Solo F in the song Supernovae was his first big break that really put him on the map and made everyone take notice. In September, one of the greatest players ever, Friff, was grinding on stream trying to FC the song Zoidberg's Revenge, which would have been a world first at the time, when Shmooey came out of nowhere to snipe it. Shmooey wasn't just able to play songs perfectly with relative ease, but he could also do things that other people simply couldn't physically do. A great example is the solo for I'm the One by Van Halen, which contains a section that requires you to strum at 22.8 notes per second, which is already crazy, but Shmooey was playing it at 125% speed, which puts it at 28.5 notes per second. Coupled with technical fretting, this section is just insane. Between 2019 and 2021, Shmooey accumulated a long list of world firsts and boasted achievements that no one else in the world could mimic. He even managed to win himself a bit of pocket money in the form of bounties. Various people would offer up large amounts of money for whoever could FC difficult songs. Shmooey did very well for himself, scooping up thousands of dollars. By 2021, Shmooey was easily considered the best player in the world. The things that Shmooey was able to accomplish were unbelievable. And of course, whenever you start to do things this impressive, people start to become ever so skeptical. People start to pay closer attention to the minute details. And it wasn't just Shmooey's skill that made a few eyebrows raise either. While he had provided video proof for all of his major achievements, there were some oddities in his videos that were definitely noticed. The first notable instance being a full combo of the song Madness March Kamikaze from June 2020. The webcam is particularly dark in the video, making it hard to see exactly what is happening, but the microphone was working just fine, and you can definitely hear the notes being tapped on the guitar. This song had been FC'd before by the player ArchWK, and it was noted that Arch's tapping speed was much faster than Shmooey's. It seemed as though Shmooey wasn't tapping quick enough to hit every note, but ultimately, this isn't anything concrete and nothing happened. In April of 2021, Shmooey uploaded his yearly montage called Shmootage, which featured his best clips of the previous year. In one of the songs highlighted, the ending is insanely difficult, requiring a very specific technique in order to do it correctly. However, what Shmooey actually played on the guitar was very different. This was quite obvious to the players who were experienced with this song, and several of them confronted Shmooie about his playstyle. Shmooie attempted to provide an explanation of his technique, but no one else could understand how it could possibly work, nor could they replicate it. And neither could Shmooie. He claimed he would show them in a voice call to prove it was possible, though that never happened. There were also a ton of weird stutters that would show up in various videos. Very obvious sections where there would be inexplicable dropped frames. Shmooie claimed this was simply an error with OBS, the software he used to record his videos. Something else that was extremely bizarre was when he uploaded a Tech FC of Through the Fire and Flames at 250% speed in June of 2021. A Tech FC is where they play each section separately and then put them together. It's more like a theoretical demonstration of what might be possible. But then, mere hours after uploading this incredible display of skill, the video was removed. Shmooie claimed this was due to a copyright strike, but people had noted that copyright strikes for this song hadn't happened in over a decade. Besides, at 250% speed, the copyright system doesn't even recognize the song. What is convenient, though, is that the people who did watch the video immediately suspected that the video of Shmooie playing seemed sped up. The movements didn't seem normal to the experienced players, especially some of the random movements that weren't related to the playing itself. But alas, the video was gone, so no one was able to study it in great detail. You will notice that I'm using the footage from that same video, so obviously it wasn't lost forever, but we'll get to that a bit later. Now, putting all of these suspicious elements together makes it seem pretty crazy that legitimate accusations of cheating weren't levied earlier. However, there is still no concrete proof of cheating in any of these examples. They are weird and definitely suspicious, but not 100% reliable. Also, Shmooie had been attending real-life meetups and showing his skill in person. Granted, he was never as good at his videos, but maybe he was just having an off day whenever anyone was watching. He was still considered extremely trustworthy and was so involved with the community that any doubters would be fairly quickly shut down and shamed. And then it happened. In December of 2021, Shmooie would upload a video that changed everything. This wasn't just suspicious, this was blatant, and it would expose one of the most prolific cheaters in video game history. On the 15th of December 2021, Shmooie uploaded a world-first full combo of the song 9 Patterns of Eternal Pain. This song features some of the most difficult tapping patterns ever created, and Shmooie played through the entire thing flawlessly. Everyone was blown away at yet another unfathomable achievement. In hindsight, it's actually hilarious that no one noticed the glaring problem with this video, but it would eventually be spotted. First, something else was noticed. About a month later in early January, several of the top players were watching Shmooie's video in a Discord voice chat. Most notably was the player Jobu, who realized that during one of the later tapping sections, the technique that Shmooie was using was completely wrong. Unlike the previous example of Shmooie playing incorrectly, this was irrefutable. It was crystal clear that he was not hitting the notes he was supposed to be. The player Frith then reached out to Shmooie, asking him exactly how he played that particular pattern. Shmooie's response was both illogical and more difficult than what other players would have used, and also it didn't even match the technique that was shown in the video. But even that wasn't the worst thing about Shmooie's video. For 2 seconds at the very end, a Windows Media Player overlay appears on screen, indicating that this wasn't a live recording, but rather a screen recording of another video. Why on earth would Shmooie screen record an existing video? The bizarre inconsistencies were getting out of hand, and this prompted players to start going over many of Shmooie's videos with a fine-tooth comb. It also just so happened that his Through Fire and Flames Tech FC that had been supposedly struck down due to copyright had been saved by someone before it was removed, and they were able to get a copy to re-examine it in greater detail. Upon watching again, everyone seemed to agree that the webcam was sped up. Several players had finally had enough, and decided to confront Shmooie with everything suspicious they had found. Initially, Shmooie was adamant that everything was legit. He claimed that he needed to re-record a media player video through OBS because of rendering problems, which is why the overlay appeared on screen.
Why at the end is there a UI there for Windows Media Player?
Because whenever I recorded via video pad, the rendering all fucked, and I had to re-record on OBS.
He claimed that his techniques were definitely correct, and any discrepancies might be due to video or audio issues. However, as the call continued and pressure mounted, he finally confessed to a total of 4 faked videos.
The vid of Flames did get taken down by a strike, but I will say this is one of the few times in which I tried to do anything suspicious. Everything else that people are looking at is going to be, as far as I'm aware, legit, okay? But I will say with Flames and a couple other ones that are primarily old, that I have done some suspicious and non-authentic stuff. And that was particularly with the Flames vid.
The method used was splicing, which is one of the most prevalent ways people cheat in speedrunning, taking 2 different sections and using video editing to put them together, because it's just too hard to do an entire thing perfectly in a single take. The most egregious example was Through the Fire and Flames, which was spliced very poorly. You can see the score counter actually drop by 5,000 points at the splice. This was a massive error, which explains why the video was removed immediately. Splicing in Guitar Hero is a bit more complex, however, because the game has to match the webcam. If you splice the webcam, that is immediately obvious. So in order to get around this problem, you have to record the game footage separately and then fake a webcam video over the top. Shmooey stated in no uncertain terms that he only faked 4 videos and repeatedly stated that the video showing the Windows Media Player overlay was definitely real. But there was one more thing about the video that seems to completely debunk Shmooey's story. While Windows Media Player stopped 2 seconds before the end, the audio of Shmooey's microphone still continued.
Oh my god.
The only explanation for this is that he was recording his webcam video and microphone separately over the top of a pre-existing video. And as I just explained, that's exactly what you need to do if you want to fake a Guitar Hero score. The players now knew that at least some of Shmooey's videos were fake, which is a really good start. Analyzing known faked videos is one of the best ways to learn about how to detect them. You can examine everything and find out every tiny difference that may help uncover future or even current cheaters. With so much manpower devoted to this cause, if there were more faked videos, it was inevitable they would be uncovered. And boy, were they ever. On the 14th of January, a player by the name of Mariazzi uploaded a video where he compared the speed of Shmooey's videos side by side with his own game, and realized that Shmooey's game was running ever so slightly slow. This wasn't noticeable to the naked eye, but when you run it through video editing software, it becomes obvious. And it's not just the speed of the game either, it's the audio itself. Given that a song will always play at the same speed, and the notes are synced up to the song, there is no reason for the songs on Shmooey's videos to be playing slowly. They soon realized there was only one explanation. Shmooey had been using a cheat engine to slow down the game. He would play through songs at a much slower speed, which is obviously easier, and then speed the footage back up. But when he did so, it wasn't perfect, so there ended up being a slight deviation. This deviation could only be found through Shmooey's videos and no one else's. Through a full analysis, it was quickly realized that almost every single one of Shmooey's videos had been faked in this way. More than 100 cheated videos over a span of almost 3 years. In the following days, even more ways to detect speed hacking were found, confirming the conclusion multiple times over. And it wasn't just speed hacking. They knew that Shmooey liked to splice, so the goal was to create a concrete way of knowing if one had occurred. They accomplished this by using the light pattern around the score multiplier. The ring is only lit in this way if no notes have been missed, and the light pattern should always be the same every single time. If the light pattern moves or jumps in a weird way, not only is this indicative of a splice, but it means the song before the splice had been altered in some way. Using the ring, even more splices were unearthed. Earlier suspicious clips like the Van Halen solo with crazy strumming I mentioned earlier in the video were re-examined. Using frame-by-frame analysis, it showed that Shmooey wasn't actually strumming fast enough to hit every note. Ultimately, all of the weird oddities people had noticed over the years were legitimate clues to something more sinister. It just took several years and a slip-up from Shmooey to unravel it all. On January 15th, Shmooey uploaded a video confessing that most of his videos were inauthentic, though he didn't go into any technical detail. 2 days later, he posted a twitlonger confirming that he used a cheat engine, splicing, and auto-strum. He also clarified that he played songs at 75% speed and then increased the video speed to 132.5%. The math here is slightly off, as he should have sped it up by 133.3% in order to correct it properly, which is why his tracks ended up being slightly slow. To his credit, shortly after his full confession, Shmooey also paid back all of the bounties he had won, totaling several $1,000s. He unlisted all of his videos on YouTube, privated his socials, and said it was time for him to go. This is definitely one of the worst cases of cheating I've ever seen, and one of the reasons for that is the relative scope of the effort Shmooey put into his faked videos when compared to the size of the community. Guitar Hero has a relatively small group of top players when compared with some other areas of gaming like speedrunning or esports. There are a couple of exceptions like Asai, who has a very large YouTube channel, but generally there isn't much fanfare or popularity that comes with being the best at this particular game. And yet, Shmooey, over the course of several years, spent an ungodly amount of energy creating these fake scores with no real payoff. He didn't amass a huge following or have much to show for his cheated accomplishments outside of praise and admiration from within the community itself. On the flip side, the devastation and damage he caused was incredible. The people who devote themselves to Guitar Hero might be small in number, but they make up for it in dedication. Some spending hundreds or even thousands of hours trying to perfect a single song. When a player invests countless hours into being the first person in the world to do something, and then someone else claims that achievement by cheating, they are effectively stealing all of that time from the other person who will never get it back. And even if later that person finds out they were in fact the first to do something, the moment is far less special. At the end of the day, cheaters are thieves, stealing time, stealing energy, stealing fame, and stealing dreams from everyone else. If you do want to give back to the community, I definitely recommend giving some of the top-level Guitar Hero or Clone Hero players a watch, as they really do deserve more credit for the crazy things they are able to do. I will put a link in the description to one of, if not the greatest full combo in the game's history. Please go and check it out. Now, what you've all been waiting for. Was I able to full combo a song? You're about to find out, but I will say that even though I was only playing on medium and the song was only 4 minutes long, I still felt a huge amount of pressure. Getting through an entire chart without making a single mistake is extremely nerve-wracking, especially at the end. Trying to do this relatively easy achievement really made me appreciate Guitar Hero players so much more. It's definitely something I could never do myself. However, I am happy to say I did get this run. As always, thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you are having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.
Over the last year, speedrunner Jadiwi would set 10 records across 4 different games in the Pokemon series, a feat very uncommon today as the Pokemon games have been speedrun and optimized for over a decade. but it turns out that Jadwiy only accomplished this because he was cheating. Perhaps worst of all, he almost managed to steal $8,500 worth of bounties with his cheated records. So let's start by looking at the run that first raised suspicion and led to Jadwi's world of fake records to come crashing down. On November 17, 2023, Jadwiy was streaming attempts of Pokemon Sapphire Any% Glitchless, a game he first completed a run in just 4 days previously with a time of 2 hours and 39 seconds. The run he was currently on had an even better pace, and when it finished, he had achieved a second place time that was 5 seconds off the current world record. If we look at Jadwi's timeline with the game, we see between his first run and second place time, only 4 days had passed, with another runner commenting that a 2-hour time is insane for a first attempt. Jadwiy replied that he had been practicing every split of the game for several days and was close to a 2:02 in his previous attempts, but that he struggled with the bike sections. Aside from these 2 runs and Discord comments, with only the second place run even having a video, there wasn't any other evidence of Jadwi's progress with the game. While he did have history with other games in the series, his less than a week grind to second place didn't sit well with one person in particular, the world record holder, Wave Warrior, and he set to work analyzing Jadwi's run. Since Jadwiy admitted to having problems with the bike, this was one of the first things Wave Warrior checked. In particular, he scrutinized a trick that lets you skip spinner trainers called run-to bikes. When you approach a spinner, they behave differently based on how you're moving. If you're walking or on the bike, they will pick a random direction to look every 32 frames. But if you're running, they will always look in the direction you're traveling when you enter their hearing radius, meaning a spinner will always catch you when running. This mechanic can be exploited to always pass a spinner, provided you can execute the requirements fast enough. When a spinner picks a direction to look, they will remain stationary for 31 frames. On the 32nd, the random direction calculation is run again. This gives you a window of 31 frames to pass a spinner with zero risk of being caught. So players run into the hearing radius to force a certain direction, then get on the bike, which takes 16 frames. Start moving, which is 8 frames, with each additional tile of movement being 4 frames. This sequence adds up to 28 frames, giving you a 6-frame window to come to a complete stop after running, as you can't mount the bike while moving. This is a very demanding trick, with top runners being able to pull it off more often than not. But when the 7 run-to bikes in Jadwi's run were analyzed, it turned out that none of them were safe. He was so late on one of them that the NPC turned before he was safely passed, and on a second, he did the movement wrong and continued traveling in its line of sight, meaning had it turned, he would have been caught. This didn't look like the movement execution of a world record level runner, so Wave Warrior dug deeper into the run, this time analyzing the 3 manipulations that take place, and what he found didn't add up either. While this speedrun was beginning to look questionable, one thing you don't want to question is the factuality of your news, and this video's sponsor Ground News can help in that regard. Ground News is a platform and app I use to stay up to date on events around the world, with it combining articles from local and international sources in one place for easy access. Part of the reason I find this so useful is that it sources articles from across the political spectrum and displays which way a particular source leans. Take the recent achievement in Tetris, for example. You can see in the bias distribution that this was covered by more center and left organizations than right-leaning ones, with the Bias Insights tab showing you what each side chose to focus on. Sources are also rated by factuality, which isn't a fact check of a particular article, but an average score of the source based on 2 independent news monitoring organizations. You can even see where your own biases lie based on analytics about what articles you read and where you're consuming your news from. For those advanced features, you'll need a subscription, and using my promo code, you can go to ground.news/Abisoft to get 30% off unlimited access to the Vantage plan using my link. I found their platform very useful in my own news browsing, and I'm sure you will too. And with that, let's get back to RNG manipulations in Sapphire. RNG in Sapphire is supposed to randomize the seed every time you perform a soft reset, but due to a bug, it instead starts from the same seed, which enables 3 manipulations to take place: Mudkip, Kyogre, and Wingull Manip. Wingull Manip is used to force an encounter and catch, with the Wingull having specific stats so it can one-shot a Geodude. To perform it, you need to save and soft reset, then press continue on a certain frame to get RNG on a known value, then follow a specific path. You'll know if you're on the right seed by checking the NPC movement, but there is another factor, and that's step count. As every 128 steps, the game has a 50% chance to advance the friendship mechanic, which will change your RNG, and coincidentally, this happens during Wingull Manip, so your step count matters. So what does this have to do with Jadwi's run? When he's leaving Little Root Town, he walks straight up, which triggers Mom to walk over to you. This not only wastes time compared to talking to Mom yourself, but also alters the step count. This put his step count at -7 compared to the established route, meaning he had to make a correction on the fly to save the manip. Since he's on an odd number, this meant he needed to do one of the correcting steps in the door of the market, as it's the only place where a single step can be adjusted. Jadwiy doesn't do this, however, and takes 2 steps above a ledge instead, resulting in a step count of -5. According to top runners, this spot isn't where you'd make a correction for Wingle manip, so this was most likely a movement mistake. But a -5 step count still has a 50% chance of success, and the manip works in Jadwiy's run. Later in the run is Kyogre manip, very similar to Wingull, as you soft reset, then use a timer to aid in catching a Kyogre with a first turn Great Ball, with this being considered the hardest manip in the run. Jadwiy also hit this manip on his first try, and we'll come back to why these 2 manips are significant, as well as look at the Mudkip manip in a bit, as there are 3 healing decisions he made that also raise red flags. Across the run, there are only 5 potions that you'll have access to, so health management and knowing when to use one are extremely important. But if we analyze Jadwiy's use of potions, we don't see the actions of someone with intimate knowledge of the run. Instead, we see someone that doesn't know what they're doing. In Petalburg Woods after the Wingull manip, there's a Team Aqua member with a Poochyena that runners call the Aqua Pooch. Going into this fight, his Mudkip is at 19 of 25 HP, and he decides to use a potion to top it up. This decision makes no sense, as you're not in danger of dying in this fight unless you're at 13 HP. And any experienced runner knows this, but it's not even the only instance. On his way to the 5th gym, he heals his Marshtomp from 50 out of 81 before fighting the Delcatty. The Delcatty only has Double Slap as a damage move, which deals 6 per hit. And if you're taking enough damage in this fight that you have to heal, you likely lost significant time to its non-damaging moves as well, which is a reset anyway. On top of this, it's more beneficial to heal before the next fight, as a Linoon can raise its attack and do significantly more damage. The most egregious heal, however, is at the end of the game when he tops up his Kyogre from 64. The most damage that Steven's Skarmory can do is 45 with its Aerial Ace, meaning the only thing to worry about is a crit. By healing here, he also changes the decisions that Skarmory's AI can take, which opens him up to a potential turn stall. The crit is only a 3% chance, and what makes this worse is that he decided to heal while on world record pace. No top runner would play around the crit with world record on the line, and this decision puts his ability to be a second place runner in serious doubt, with the theory being that he topped up his HP to make it easier to splice in each instance. While a top runner wouldn't make the movement or healing mistakes that Jadwiy did, these are only circumstantial evidence and don't prove concretely that the run was cheated. But there's one more detail that Wave Warrior focused on, and that's Jadwiy's attempt count. If we look at the splits from his first run on November 13th, we see he has a total of 256 attempts, and when he achieved the second place time on the 17th, his attempt count went up to 1126, with these being the only runs he ever finished. That's 870 attempts over the course of 4 days, and he was called out about this in the Discord, with his response being that he played 14 hours a day. But let's analyze this. With a session time of 14 hours across 4 days, we get a total of 56 hours. Since there aren't any VODs of his attempts, we can't know for sure, but let's take his word and assume this is correct. The earliest reset point in the run is Mudkip manip, as it occurs directly at the beginning. To execute it, you need to perform a soft reset, then use a timer to confirm the Mudkip on a certain frame to obtain the naughty nature with specific stats. You won't know if the manip worked until the battle with the Poochyena. If its gender is male, you were a frame early and have the wrong Mudkip. But if you're a frame late, the genders of both Pokemon and Mudkip's HP will be identical to the correct frame. The frame early reset is about 3 minutes and 20 seconds, with the frame late reset being closer to 5 minutes, as you need to play longer to verify the Mudkip. But let's be generous and assume that Jadwiy reset at the 3-minute 20 mark each time. 870 attempts resetting at the earliest possible Mudkip manip gives a total minute count of 2,900, or just over 48 hours. This leaves 8 hours of time to perform any run that made it beyond Mudkip manip. which equates to 4 full attempts that didn't die, with one of those resulting in a second place run. You can adjust the calculation in Jadwi's favor a bit by accounting for attempts that reset before Mudkip Manip due to error. Wave Warrior offered 100 such attempts in his original calculation and attributed no reset penalty to them as well. Despite this, the time Jadwi had for anything but Mudkip Manip only goes from just under 8 hours to a little over 13 hours, meaning he spent 43 madness-inducing hours grinding Mudkip Manips and only saw beyond the first 3 minutes of the game for a total of 13 hours, or 6.5 full runs of the game at record pace. This is not a lot of time, especially when you consider that the game is full of high-variance fights that can end a run. But Jadwi is questioned about his attempt count and has this to say: 50% of my attempts did not pass Roxanne, and 45 of the remaining 50% did not pass Tatum Lisa. Roxanne is the first gym leader, with the fight taking place just over 15 minutes into the run. Given that he has a huge attempt count, this is a clever thing to say, but as we saw with the math, it doesn't make any sense. Sapphire is a hard game to get a run going in, given the various run killers, with top runners spending entire streams not getting anything beyond the mid-game. And given that Jadwi had a budget of 13 hours, the only conclusion is that at best, his attempt count is fake, and at worst, the entire run is suspect. In a message to another runner, Jadwi claims that he doesn't save any of his splits, and that he sets the attempt count by hand each time he starts a grind. It is possible he grinded 14 hours a day and put the attempt count in wrong, but there's no way of verifying if this claim is true or false. If we go back to Mudkip Manip, we also see another glaring issue. Given that he would have spent 43 hours on this trick alone, it reveals another fact. Jadwi is extremely inconsistent at performing manipulations. If Jadwi is this bad at Mudkip Manip, then it's safe to say he's likely not great with Wingle Manip either. And assuming he talked to Mom and used the -5 step count in every attempt, only 3 of 6 frames on this step count produce a Wingle. This means he would have been failing the Manip 50% of the time even if he executed it properly. Kyogre Manip is likely harder to perform than the other two as well, especially with the added pressure of being on good pace, with each failed attempt costing 45 seconds. But Jadwi hits this first try, despite spending over 40 hours resetting on Mudkip Manip. He also played on the DS console, which isn't hardware top runners
Alright, chat.
as it's slightly slower than the
I think
game.
we'll call that a stream. I'm gonna go back to the AFKing this bitch strat.
Meaning had he played this on the optimal hardware,
yeah.
it would have been world record by far.
See you guys maybe tomorrow, maybe tonight if I get the damn fucking blood-soaked invitation. I've killed 60 rares today. It's crazy.
He only had to wait a month.
Yeah, 2.5 hours, kind of chump amount of time, but whatever. I kind of want to like actually want to watch this while I'm AFKing at this bitch.
And was the result